Fowler is joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, Moto 2, this is where I think Jett made a statement. There's 4 stats that are like the primary stats to think about for all time. You got wins, podiums, starts, and points. If Eli races the rest of this year and all of next year, he's basically going to finish in both Supercross and in Pro Motocross as top 3 in all 4 of those categories.
You can't really shit on an athlete for wanting to be a great athlete.
No.
The last couple of weeks, there's been talk about a comment you made about 72 wins. Does your thoughts on it change?
No, it doesn't really change anything. I'm coming in, you got to set such a high goal for yourself.
14 races into his career, and he's on path. Him, McGrath, and Stu have the same curve of number of wins this many starts into their career. Nobody else was on that path. RC has won more second motos than anybody's won total motos. Ponder that one.
That's mental. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by AG1. I want to give a big personal thank you for their help in getting me to the start line at Glen Helen for the World Vets. It was a real bucket list thing for me, and I spent all of 2023 training for it. I may have skipped a couple of runs and had a few off days at the track, but one thing I didn't skip all year was a morning started with AG1. Consistency is everything in health and fitness, and one scoop of AG1 with water first thing in the morning, every morning, played a massive role in getting me on the start line. I feel more energized, I have better digestion, and I have a higher sense of general well-being as a result. That's because every scoop includes things such as B vitamins for energy support, probiotics for gut support, and vitamin C and zinc for immune support. And while all of these attributes make AG1 a real no-brainer, you can try it and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/gypsytales. And keep an eye out for our World Vets content dropping here on our YouTube channel soon.
I met a gypsy.
It's hilarious. The first time going in front of a camera like 2 years ago. Dude, I've never, like in corporate environment, right? I've been in leadership roles, so you get up in front of 250 people and chit chat and like whatever. Dude, it's a different thing when you know it's like the crew you care about in moto
are listening
on race day live, and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to sound like a complete munchkin, right?
I know, but you do a really good job.
I don't know.
So that's why you're here, really. That's probably a good place to start. Clinton Fowler is joining us on the podcast. So We Went Fast is your, I don't know what you would categorize that as, but break down for people the role. So you've got that, you've got the analytics side of things. So like you're very in the background of the sport and in the foreground in ways too.
I prefer the background.
Yeah, but you've got a few different elements that you are working in the sport these days.
You know, it goes to something I think Weege talks about, which is you can't make it in the sport without doing multiple things, right? Like what I do for the broadcast crew, like it's in some ways pays like a hobby pays, right?
Yeah.
And so We Went Fast was kind of a necessity of joining up with Brett Smith and just he's got a way with words and I have a way with numbers, and so it was kind of a match made in heaven in some ways. Just a great way for us to amplify the message, and he and I talk about it. It's just like better stories make the sport better. Right?
100%.
The more you know this, you live this, right? Yeah. Like the stories are there. And so can you get the color? Can you actually tell the richness of what's happening in the history?
Yeah.
And so We Went Fast kind of starts from there. And now quite frankly, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we've got some subscriptions. We've got like founding members that help us get through the initial investment stuff and building out the site. It's literally the cusp of what's possible. The database that I have and the amount of stuff I go through, it's like, I don't know, 700 views of the data, right? Just different ways to look at the sport from a stats perspective. Like there's 5 of them on the site, right? So like somebody calls me and is like, Mike Bonacci's like asked me a couple questions last weekend. He's like, could you tell me this or this from like a marketing perspective? There's just so much there. There's so much richness there to just tell stories.
Yeah.
And we just got to get those surfaced. So that's what we went fastest. Better stories. Yeah.
That's so cool because it's just leverage. You know what I mean? Like the statistics that you have apply leverage to whatever story or, you know, like a fact about the team for marketing, you know. So there's just so much value in that. I mean, it's why literally every big tech company is like stealing your data is because it is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, I completely backed into it, but it's, what I did prior to this, right? Like I worked at Red Bull running their data science department for North America. And it was all about how do you leverage data to make a better business, right?
Yeah.
Get the cans there more efficiently, sell into, you know, find the right placement on a shelf better than Monster's doing it. Which is irony in this sport because Monster's so present.
And what you do now. It's like, you're a shill now for Monster.
Well, and the best part of this is you won't see me with a Monster logo on. It's like I'm still very much in the Red Bull camp. But and I did it for REI beforehand, running their marketing analytics and customer analytics. And it's just about getting the numbers to actually tell a story and to learn more and that leverage for doing something better. And it's amazing when you get it. No different than an athlete, right? I've talked to Will Hahn and Max Lee recently.
For sure, dude.
Yeah, and you're an athlete, you get data. You get data about your body, you get your lap time data, you use that to get better. It's no different here, right?
Yeah.
Like the sport, you can tell those better stories, and in business, you can use it to just do better business. So, yeah.
It's funny. I like to translate everything in my life. I wouldn't say I'm good with numbers, but I'm really good at looking at graphs. And so I try and have a dashboard for everything in my life. And I really compile. So even with I think I've told you, but I like built a database for the podcast. And we've got like manually we enter everything we post, like the platform that it's on, like blah, blah, blah. And we like spit everything into graphs. So like how much content are we posting a month? Like we don't necessarily look at like the views and stuff. It's more like the productivity of like
the workflow.
What are we doing with our workflow? But I just think if there's like a way, so like bank account, you put that in a graph, you put your health and sleep. And so having data is like, for me, just the secret to everything. I need to see like a graph in front of me and then I'm sweet.
Yeah, I like it. It's funny you say it with the visuals because I like to say once you get the data, you get to see things you didn't see before.
Yeah.
Right. And it's weird. Like you can't see it until you see it.
Yeah.
And for some people, they can look at a table. Take a finance guy, right? Like if you take my old manager, CFO at Red Bull North America, he loves tables. He'll read tables till he's blue in the face and like.
Yeah, but that's just the numbers on the screen.
It's just numbers. And there's a lot of people who look at that and be like, dude, it looks like ants walking across the page.
That's me, yeah.
Right? But you make a bar graph and it sounds super nerdy, but you make a bar graph. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I completely get that, right? Yeah. It's amazing how much the visualization just can tell a completely different story. Yeah.
And so as far as the broadcast goes, what's your role with the broadcast?
Yeah, kind of unique. There's a lot of different hats. As mentioned before, I mean, I'm kind of behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
But really it's 7 days a week in a lot of ways.
Really?
Like take from the end of a race, start from the end of a race through a week. End of the race, I'll process all the data and I'll get the database
And so what
updated.
kind of metrics are you going off?
Oh.
Like, I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, all ends of it, right? Like the most basic stuff to wins and podiums to then what gate position did they select? And by gate position, I mean like the first one, gate 1 to me is the most inside. Gate 22 is the farthest outside.
Yeah.
And so I'll go and I'll put in what gate position each rider was in for each of the races. Then I look at it and go, what position were they in at the white line? Then you get segment times. You got total race time. Basically anything that's data, I want to capture it. I may not have a use for it now, but the thing I've learned over 25 years is there will be a use for it. And if I don't capture it now, I'm going to be annoyed when the question comes up down the road and I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't capture that at the time, right? So pretty much everything, right? It's whether it's a rider performance related or just the atmosphere. Is it muddy out? Is it raining? Is it, is there a whoops in this segment? Is there a triple in this segment? Are there 180-degree turns, 90-degree turns? Like all that stuff is stuff that I want to capture. So that's like at the end of the race to Sunday night. Mondays is build out a preview doc for the entire crew. And by the entire crew, that's Feld corporate employees. So like the people you'd never hear or see, the people doing the marketing and the operations and getting permitting and all that stuff. Like there's a whole crew at Feld that you just don't realize is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so I write a preview doc that's like getting them up to speed on the key stories for the week. And so that's a unique piece. Frankly, if you're on We Went Fast and you've got the subscription and you're reading the Shop Rag, which is our weekly newsletter, it's really that preview doc.
I'm getting a subscription.
Yeah, I can get you hooked up there.
Yeah, sweet.
But it's that preview doc sets the baseline for everybody to just have like, here are the big stories. And it's not going to capture everything. You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's enough so. I do the SMX Insider Show on Tuesday mornings. So that means Monday night, I'm probably sitting there going, what the heck am I going to talk about tomorrow morning when we do the show, and like coming up with something I'm pulling from the preview stats or the preview doc. And so that's pretty behind the scenes. And then there's the film room, used to be Fowlers film room, now SMX film room. I'll write the script for that. That's typically breaking down some times and something interesting for the race and just for Brayton and I to talk about come Saturday, which is the on-air segment. And then it doesn't matter who it is. It could be Bondo, our producer, on the NBC broadcast. It could be our producer now, Samantha Kuhlman, on Race Day Live. Hubbard, Brayton, Weege, Diffie, they can all basically reach out to me during the week and say, hey, I got this idea.
Yeah.
Can you validate it? Is that real or is it total BS, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm taking talent questions and answering those things. And then I'll get on a plane Friday morning, get to the event, and prep for the next day. I'm basically prepping 5 to 7 stats and insights for every single time bikes are on track. And then those get sent out via feed off of the website for all the talent in the building. And then for a guy like Diffie or Weege who sits next to me in the booth, or I'm sitting next to them in the booth, I'm literally writing it on a postcard. So as the race is unfolding, I'm like writing as fast as I can, handing it over. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like a complete end of the spectrum of like different things. And then obviously on Saturdays, I got an on-air segment, which is just adds stress of getting in front of a camera for a guy that likes to be behind the scenes. So yeah, a little different.
Dude, that's epic.
It's nuts.
That's like a crazy week. And do you do that just for Supercross or motocross as well?
Not to the depth for motocross, but definitely still
There's like an element of it.
Yeah. Yep. The preview doc still gets done. There's still race day stats. I'll support for 4 or 5 of the actual races in person. The NBC ones we put priority around. Yeah. When you get the broader audience, you want to make sure you're putting everything at it. Yeah.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You do like a crazy service for the sport.
Yeah. And it's literally, I had no idea. Like I didn't know this even existed as a thing, right?
Yeah.
4 years ago, 5 years ago. So yeah, super, super fun.
And so how are you getting the data? Like, is it just all manual at this point?
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, that AMA website with all the PDF archive.
So that's just how you have to do it.
It's miserable.
Yeah, that
it's
sucks.
The absolute worst possible way to think about collecting data. Yeah, dude. It's a nightmare. Is
there anything that you could put on the bikes or riders that would automate that shit for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think they're working on stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we kind of like need to go in that direction.
Yeah, it's lacking, right? Like I don't think anybody would say that it's up to snuff, including the AMA.
Well, it's just a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
Like there's you can have everything you want, just not all at once.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much data potential coming off a bike. We see it in F1, right? Like you and I were talking briefly there, but I mean, F1, you pull up their app during a race. You got the radio, you've got a full stream that's similar to the stream that I provide to the crew of insights that's as it's happening. You've got where they're at on the track, what tire they're at, how many laps that tire's been on. It's just all that data is just coming to you. It's a whole different way of consuming the race, right?
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody, right? I'm sure there's people that just like to watch and want to enjoy it, but there's other people that are like, oh man, that's freaking super cool. That's a whole different way to view it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like we were talking about before too, there's I think the guys right now, like Weege and Diffie or whoever in RC, like it's just so what's in front of them right now. And it's kind of like really up to them to just like, you're just talking about visually what you can see, which is like what everyone else can see at home, you know? So I think that's when it's like, it comes across to people criticize as like Captain Obvious, but it's like, well, fuck, like.
What are you going to say?
What do you want to talk about? Like they're seeing what you're seeing, you know?
Yeah.
But to know that, you know, you're there with, and I think over the last few years, like we've definitely, it's been way more engaging for me to follow, like, this is how many wins Tomac's at. This is how, you know, you can, it's a storyline that builds over weeks and weeks. And in the past, it used to be like, this is their 200th start or this is their whatever. Or just like tonight, he broke the win record and you kind of wouldn't really know about it until like
2 days later,
almost the night of.
If ever. Yeah.
So just to have those, like even Chisholm's 200, was it his 200th?
200. Yeah.
That's fucking amazing.
It's amazing.
Like that's worth.
The dude's amazing.
That's worth celebrating.
Yeah.
You know, like there's guys like you could probably tell me how many starts Ricky Carmichael had, but it's like not 200.
Not as many. Yeah. Not as many. Somewhere in the like 140 or 160 range, maybe. I don't know. It's like way less. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a story. You know, it's like the guy might not have won as much as Ricky Carmichael, but like fucking outlasted him by a lot of seasons.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you look at the data and like there's some people that love it, right? That want that 200th start, that 101st podium by Eli.
Yeah.
And there's other people that are just like, dude, I could care less, right?
Yeah,
like,
fuck
exactly. I'm like, dude, you're missing out on a whole texture. It's like, that's the bench racing opportunity. Like, like that's where the trash talk amongst you can be like, that doesn't matter. Let me throw another stat at you. And it's just, I don't know. That to me is the texture of just debating something back and forth, healthy debate, right?
Yeah.
Not our political debates these days, but I just think the numbers add a little bit to it. We've also been blessed in the last 2 years with guys like Tomac just ascending through the ranks. I mean, his milestones last year was wins. This year it's podiums. I mean, the one that I love this year, 200 he broke Carmichael's podium record. All classes, motocross, supercross, 216 podiums.
That's gnarly.
Eli has more podiums. It's like, dude, he's gnarly. He's obviously, I think you had said it's like he's one
of the best ever.
Yeah, he is, right? I love giving RC a hard time about, I always tell him rewriting the record books, and RC just looks at me, he's like, I got the record. And he's joking, right? But yeah, it's incredible what we've been able to see the last 2 years. And that to me just brings the stats to the forefront, helps you tell the story. Yeah. Like Eli getting a win this year, 10 consecutive seasons with a win.
It's huge.
Yeah. And then you realize like, wait, he tied Stu, and you realize, wait, James Stewart had 10 years, and everybody always goes, I would have never guessed it. James had 10 years of winning, right?
Yeah.
To me, those are stories that you don't get without having the stats and having them readily available. And
Well, there's also an element as well in terms of like what it adds, but it's also what it doesn't take away, because you actually could diminish Stewart's career without that fact.
Yeah.
And it's very easy. So it's like with Eli, you're like adding to his, the storyline. But with James, it's like, no. Don't take that away from him. Yeah. We've got the facts. Yeah. And he's done the same. Like he had the same.
It was an incredible career. Yeah. You could critique all you want. Like, it was only 2 Supercross championships. What could have been, right?
Yeah.
He'll even tell you that, right? Like, he's a closet stats nerd, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's quite a smart guy.
Yeah. Super.
Like there's probably some like, my wife always teases me saying I'm autistic, like because of like the weird shit that I think about and care about.
Yeah.
And it's like there's probably some of that going on there too, because he's very intricate. Like even with it, and I know from like the golf side of things, like I've had more golf conversations than like moto in that respect, but it's like the way that he talks about a golf swing and the number. I'm like,
dude, he's so into it. I'll share a little story. Like, when you're sitting in the booth is a bit of a sanctuary, right? Like it's live TV, so during it, nobody's allowed in there. And just in general, it's a working environment and it's pretty quarantined off. And anyhow, we're sitting in Daytona last year. It's the first time I meet James in person, and I'm a fan first, right? But I also got it's James Stewart, it's Carmichael. It's like mad respect for those guys and what they did, right?
That's a room to be in.
Yeah, and the conversations you get to hear, and hearing RC and Stu banter back and forth, like lifetime memories. But you want to give respect. And so I'll just, for the most part, I try to keep to myself for the most part. But James, the first time I meet him, I get introduced as a stats guy, and he's like, oh. He's like, well, let me see.
My man.
Yeah, he's like, can I see? And I'm like, come on, you don't really want to look at this stuff. He's like, no, dude, let's get into this. And literally, we started just going back and forth into trivia. And he is an encyclopedia of knowledge on the sport. And to me, that just underscores like the importance of having the stats and the fact that he knew them even when they're not so present in our sport.
Yeah.
It was just that, it was impressive for him, and then just underscores the like, hey, this is the stuff that tells us stories. This is where we get some of the richness. This is what makes it a professional sport. Right?
Oh, 100%. And like, you can listen to any football broadcast, any NBA, golf, like that. You get so sucked into those sports because of those storylines and because of those, like, they just push everything forward, you know, like, and it's like thickness, like ingredients into a soup. It's like you're just adding so much more stuff. There's just makes it way more tangible of a product. And I think there's just been so many instances, especially over the last few years, where you really get to appreciate that. And it does make it just feel more professional.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. It's weird to listen to a broadcast and like listen to it back. I'll rewatch everything on Sunday, because the reality is I don't actually get to watch. Everybody's like, oh, it must be awesome to be able to watch the races live. And it's like, I don't actually get to watch
you're
the
so
show
deep
at
in
all.
that.
I'm sitting either in a laptop or in a screen with lap times and trying to find where the interesting stuff is. But it's always awesome to watch it back and be like, oh, there's a number I handed him. There's a number, right? And to hear Weege or Diff talking about those things on air, and it's like, oh yeah, that's texture. Like the number of times I think would surprise people, right? Yeah. And then there's other times where you don't need it at all, right? You get epic battles on the track, and like the last thing you want to hear is a stat. You want to just hear RC talking about a battle and what's happening there, right? Yeah. So I also have the appreciation for you don't need it all the time.
So are you getting obviously rider stuff, but manufacturer stuff as well? Like, because I think that's a pretty undersold story in the sport as well, is just like manufacturer wins, manufacturer titles, like what manufacturers are even, it's like Red Bull and Ferrari, or is it Red Bull and Mercedes, or like who, like everyone could probably figure that maybe Suzuki's not the most, you know, like winning team right now, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe they're just in a slump. Like even following the manufacturers, and as new manufacturers enter, like how long does it take Triumph to get a win? Now can we compare that against Ducati? Like, because we've got that. It took Ducati this long, you know? So I think even on the manufacturer side, there's quite a bit there.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, to your initial point, like we don't put enough weight into it, I don't think, right? And it's definitely with the Manufacturers Cup, we've kind of tried to push that a little bit more. I think you see it on the broadcast, you see it in the recap show. Yeah, we always try to hit on the Manufacturer Cup now, so it's definitely
which I think is awesome.
Yeah, we've got to. The challenge there is like, what do you associate to the manufacturer? Right,
that's kind of the hard thing, right?
Yeah, and I think to me there's one of two things. Like you got to associate the riders, but we know riders switch, and so the reality is like the team managers. I think we've got to amplify that team manager and associate the manufacturer to the team manager and the stats that go with those
almost
guys.
Like a head coach.
Yeah. Like I've been trying to figure out, this is a great one. I've been trying to figure out Roger DeCoster's stats.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Like Roger's been around forever.
Yeah. How many podiums does Roger DeCoster have as a head coach, essentially?
Yeah. And like placing that history together is a gargantuan task, because the 70s and 80s is a little bit difficult to get all the pieces, but like those are the things where I think it's going to bring out the stories in the manufacturers. Yeah. The one this year that's been kind of cool is with Pro Circuit closing in on 300. I'm going to just drop right now is Brett Smith's jinxing us last week because he posted the 299 wins. We're joking right now that it was Brett's. Those guys, man, just rough for Mitch.
That was rough.
It was so rough. And like hearing the news of Cameron today is a bit of a disappointment, but not any more so than I'm sure how he's feeling right now about it. But looking at those guys hitting 299 wins,
Mitch would have had no idea.
No, and that's stuff that,
and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and Cowie reached out to me 7 weeks ago, and it's like, hey, we think we're getting close to this number. Can you help us with verifying that stuff out? And it's amazing to look at that stuff. Like Pro Circuit, as a team is the 4th winningest manufacturer. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And so it's just like those sort of things are things where you just look at it and it's like, oh, there's a story there. So the manufacturer stuff is definitely on my list of like need to spend more time with.
Yeah.
The one that I'm super keen to, and it's been about 18 months of just on the back trying to build it all out, is all the teams, the full history of teams, and just like factory Honda versus factory Kawi.
Yeah, exactly.
And that to me is where it'll start to get juicy and like who contributed the most. And you look at a guy like RV, right? Like who's fully underappreciated in the sport because he just was so short in his career. But just looking at, he spent his entire career with Kawi.
Yeah.
Like that's going to come up in a Kawi story.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Well, what's cool? Like, as I've never really thought of it from that perspective, but let's say there becomes a lot more weight put on the manufacturers. That kind of really incentivizes them to hire more riders. As more weight starts going and like really having a second guy that's like really good and like really pushing for the teams. Because right now, like there's not that much incentive to kind of do it. But it's like you start to really weigh that narrative. Like it could almost like make the teams better or make like it becomes more of an investment to build that team name,
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you get it right now with Yamaha.
That's obviously a slow process, but
yeah, I mean, F1 obviously with the two drivers, it's simple, right? It's easy. And you see it this year with the Manufacturers Cup because Yamaha and Star Racing's obviously stacked and got a bunch of guys that could podium on any given weekend. I don't remember the number exactly, but I want to say like in the Manufacturers Cup this year, they've had 12 or 13, maybe 14 riders contribute to points, right?
That's so gnarly.
Which is huge. And it's just because they've got a bench, right? Whereas like Kawi's had 5 guys that have contributed points to the Manufacturers Cup. But if you look at it in just raw numbers, sure, you can hire more and you're going to get more. But the way they're doing that, I think the way they do the Manufacturers Cup is pretty cool, where it's just like your best 450 rider and your best 250 rider. And then it nullifies. I mean, you still get an advantage from hiring everybody, right? You got more opportunity to go finish in the top. But it's a way to make it apples to apples across the manufacturers. It's tougher for like Triumph with only a 250 team and Beta with only a 450 team. But
it's more incentive to...
Yeah, it's more incentive to go make the investment in both of those. And the more we can promote it and the more we can look at it, it's a goodness,
Yeah. What if you had like your way and you could just magic wand over everything that you do, like, and I guess, or data that you could collect going forwards? Like what extra stuff would you want to get?
I mean, the answer is I'll take any piece of data I can get, right? Like it truly is. It's one of those things where I've just learned through the years in the corporate world, right? The more data I could get, and not just raw data, like it's really important pieces. Like you can send me a ton of data, but I need to get it in shape. Just like an athlete, you could give an incredibly talented person that's out of shape, right? There's plenty of them we could probably highlight in the history of moto where you're like, man, if only that guy would have put some dedicated effort into it, what could have been possible. Data is the same way. So like you want all the data in the planet and then you want to get it in shape. So I'll take everything. The thing that to me is the untapped, and there's conversations with some teams and manufacturers on this front, but is I want to take the lap time data, the segment time data, combine it with data off of the bike, right? If you look at data from a bike, you've got 40 to 50 channels of data from the engine to throttle position to suspension rates. So I want to get all of those. And then I want all the bio data off the rider.
Yeah.
And not just like the basic stuff, like heart rate. Heart rate's interesting on one hand, but like wholly uninteresting on another because all of our heart rates are very different. Right?
Yeah.
So really comparatively, you've got no benchmark because it's just going to be, your max could be 210 and mine could be 170. And
it just doesn't give you much.
It's not going to tell you a whole heck of a lot. But there's a lot of other stuff that you can get off of a body that we just don't capture, right? That just, we do a lot of suspension capture, but what are we doing about muscle contraction and how much the muscles are actually working when a rider's out there?
Even like cortisol levels and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things, right? Being at Red Bull and talking with the Athlete Performance Center guys, there's just so much more we could capture off of a rider. I mean, think about it. you're out in a 30-minute plus 2-lap moto. It's 100 degrees.
Body temp would be crazy to
Yeah.
know.
Like body temp is known to be a massive performance indicator, right? Like,
Yep.
just look at the
Triathlon. And
Yeah.
like, they're always, there's literally people in triathlon that like will measure their body temperature real time throughout the race to like manage their heart rate and hydration.
Yeah, it's just huge. So that sort of stuff, like I want to take all three of those things. It's like that bio data, the bike data, and then the race time data. And I want to put those things together. I know, just like one of those things, having that blind faith. I know if I had that data, I joke with folks, like I could find a second for every rider on the track, right? If I had access to that data and I could go take the time to put it in shape. I believe there's just a second for everybody on the track to be learned from that. And it's just about optimizing, right? In a 30-minute plus 2 moto, you're going to tell me the suspension is optimized for the entirety of that 30 minutes?
Yeah.
No, like your body's going to break down over, even the best athletes on the planet, the body breaks down at some point. Like how is it breaking down and how does that affect your ability to go ride that bike?
Yeah.
Right. And in the best possible way. And I just think there's places to learn there and technology to put forth that would make some serious improvements on rider performance. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think also just for the broadcast,
Oh,
you know, like that's kind of what I was getting at before, is saying that like, what are they supposed to talk about? You know, like if they don't have any more information apart from what you're giving them on terms of like statistics for race wins and, you know, some arbitrary numbers around like event statistics, like why can't I know how much faster that triple before the whoops was?
yeah.
Like, why can't I know exactly? Like, Cooper Webb was not doing it and Eli was doing it. They're on the same motorcycle.
Yeah.
Tell me how much faster it is. That should be known, you know, or like who is faster here? Who's faster there? Who's going better on this section? Like, if we could have that data and gears, what gear are people in? Like, that's really rad data. Like, when you can, everything looks fast on an F1 car, but it's like, is it 4th gear or is it 8th gear?
Yeah.
Because if it's 8th gear and I can see the throttles like that is gnarly to see that, you know, like, and if you can get to where you have Tomac's telemetry coming up, like MotoGP lean angle, like that they've got, you can literally see the speed, you can see the braking, like it's all so available. Like imagine seeing like the throttle position and gear of Eli Tomac coming into a set of whoops.
Yep.
Like,
and
dude,
comparing it to
because I
Cooper.
know,
Cooper
but
Webb,
like
right?
even me, like comparing it to me, like when have I ever been 4th gear wedged on a 450 before a set of never. You know, like, and if you can,
no chance.
if you can clearly see that and it comes up and it's like real time and you're just seeing the throttle just get fucking cracked open before the set of whoops live on, like that is crazy. You know, like that is some, and that gives Weege, Diffie, RC, like they can really bite into that kind of information, you know?
You know, there's a couple of things that come up as you're talking through that. Because like one, it's just cool, right?
Yeah.
Like for sure for the core fans, but even for the non-core, for those that are just getting introduced, it can give an idea for like how gnarly a track it is and the difference between riding, right?
Yep.
Like take last weekend. I love it. I can remember this. Some of the stuff I can remember off the top of my head. Other stuff, man, I need that laptop sitting in front of me. Like I can't keep it all up
if
there.
you were going to bring the laptop,
Dude,
actually.
I've got I should show you some stuff at the end, but
yeah,
it's nuts because take Nashville, right? So Eli Tomac gets out. I mean, we all saw it. He was incredible to start that race. He was fastest in 3 of the first 4 laps. He breaks out the triple before the whoops that nobody had been doing. Roczen follows on him. Jett sees him do that. Then he does it from the inside. But the interesting part is his advantage, that he set the fastest lap on lap 4.
Jett?
Nope, Eli.
Tomac.
The absolute fastest of the race was Eli. In the exact same lap 4 is when Jett set his fastest lap, and the difference was 0.28 seconds. That 0.28 seconds was entirely because of the triple that Eli was doing at the end of the long rhythm lane.
Yeah.
Right? That's a post-race analysis where I have all the data and I can look at it.
Going backwards to look at that.
That's me on Sunday morning going, holy cow. Literally, like you can watch and you can see, like he just was absolutely nailing it. Now, it went away because ruts formed and he just wasn't able to do that same line. So he goes and sets the fastest lap on lap 4. Jett sets his absolute fastest on lap 4. But the reality is Jett wins that race. Jett wins because he's a third of a second faster over in the sand section. Every single lap on average, a third of a second faster. And it's like, I want to see what is the line difference between Eli and Jett in that
Real
sand
time.
section
Yep.
in real time. I
On
want
the
to see
broadcast.
what gear are they in?
Yep.
Like what's the throttle position,
Yep.
right? What's the suspension rate? Like we've heard Jett talk about on the Weed Show. Jett mentioned he runs a much stiffer suspension, and like, okay, stiffer suspension in the sand, we know that's typically harder. So why is it in the sand that he's just killing it? And we know that Jett just has some incredible talent there. But that's the sort of stuff that's pretty amazing to think about in real time, and it's possible real time.
Yeah.
So then that's where I'll talk about on the broadcast, like it's a live show, right? And so there's been a ton of investment. I think folks have seen it. There's been a lot of investment over the last 3-4 years. I think they've just been putting a lot of effort together. It just is a matter of time of
Yeah.
like
100%.
yeah, and like they're plugging away at those pieces. And the other thing I'll just say, like perception joining, like, dude, when I showed up 3 years ago to A1, I'd never done anything in live TV. I knew nothing about production, nothing about broadcast. I was a corporate guy that was behind the scenes just helping executives run a more optimized and efficient business, right? Like that was my deal. It's been eye-opening. A live production, it's like you don't get a redo.
No, it's pretty gnarly.
You know how, right? Like you've lived it. Like it's like everybody has a role, and if one person screws up, you're all gonna see it.
Oh, the anxiety that you have around doing shit live is pretty gnarly.
As a number, for me personally, a numbers guy, if I hand Diffie a wrong number or Weege a wrong number and they say it, it's like, that's
It's
on
over,
me.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, and it's like, it's happened. I've had to, I gave RC a number first year I was doing it. I was like, he said it. And I immediately was like, that was in one of my docs. I'm like, that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And I had to give him like in the middle of the race and anyhow, but like, it's live. Like you don't get a do-over. So
Yeah.
it's one thing to make the investment in the tech and the capability to do it in the broadcast. And then it's another thing to like, okay, now Diff and RC and Weed, you're going to have to build the muscle in the staff to build the muscle to incorporate that. Right?
Yeah.
I think one of the cool advancements right now is like they're bringing in the side-by-side stuff and showing the dartfish stuff. Where they're going through the segments and they're taking something from qualifying and showing like, hey, take a look at Jett coming through here, take a look at Coop coming through here.
They did a really good one. Was it at Charlotte with Sexton and Jett?
I
think it was the
can't
first
remember.
SMX. There was something from qualifying. It was like the sand section or whatever. But yeah, like there's so, I mean, it's one of the things that excites me so much about Supercross. Like I just think even in the time that I've done the podcast, it's just, I feel like we've seen such a huge swell of like, I mean, I just think everything's kind of gotten better, but like even there was no YouTube presence for the sport at all really on YouTube outside of Racer X and, like doing bike, bike tests and, content like that. But now with like people commenting on the sport, with all the press conference stuff, with like dudes making dedicated YouTube channels to like talking about the sport and, like what Johnny Hopper's doing. Like I think he's doing an amazing job with like his technical breakdowns. And so it's like, it is so cool to just see in the last like 5 years how much more the sport has kind of like walked into the future. And it takes a long time, especially at like that Feld corporate level for things to catch up. But I mean, I think we're like really starting to see the effects of that work behind the scene,
Yeah, it is interesting. Like just you think about the amount of media, right? I think about A1 this year in particular, and just it's got to be double the amount of people there, right? And in all different types, whether it be a YouTuber or just stories in a blog or stats or podcasts or whatever it may be. Just there's everybody picking out the niches and going deep in these different areas. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that part of the sport grow. And yeah, now we just need to just get more followers, right? I look at it. To me, it's we talk about growth, and we're getting it on the media side. I look at growth, and I'm a corporate guy, so I think about it from a nerdy corporate strategy perspective, right? And I look at it, and I think one of the big challenges is you look at the customer today, and when you talk about growth,
They don't want it.
That means, that means a different customer.
Yeah,
so your gatekeeping
Yeah.
like needs to go away. If you want growth, the reason we don't have growth partially is gatekeeping, right? Is like, listen, by growing, that means you're going to bring people into the sport that aren't like you.
Yeah.
The example I'll give, worked on Xbox at the beginning of my career, right? So we shipped the original Xbox, super cool. Then we ship Xbox 360, and anybody that's got a little bit of age remembers the Nintendo Wii comes out.
Yeah.
And the Wii has the
Hand control and the tennis and the boxing.
Yeah, and like you see families just all of a sudden, like the Wii comes out and completely takes hardcore gaming and makes it living room friendly for the whole family.
Yeah,
and
all the Diablo crowds going, fuck this.
What
this
the
isn't
hell,
gaming.
dude?
Yeah,
That's
I
so.
get where you're going.
And some of them are like, well,
My
no.
wife is that.
Right? But here's the thing. That grew video gaming massively.
Yep.
Because it brought a whole set of people that thought the nerds in their grandmother's basement playing Diablo and World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
It was like, oh no,
Quake.
actually.
Yeah.
They're like, listen, you don't need to be sniping and teabagging and doing all this other stuff in the games. Like it took it away from that and said, hey, there's actually a family aspect to this.
Yeah.
Well, as a guy that was sitting on Xbox, and we were very much targeted at the hardcore. We knew there was a 3.2 million. I can still say it today. I knew the number. There was 3.2 million hardcore guys that you knew you needed to get because they were the influencers, right?
Yeah.
Well, it just completely blasted that out of the water. And all of a sudden, the marketplace, the entire install base of consoles grew drastically because they brought in new customers. So take and translate that type of strategy into something like Moto.
So cool. The way that you said that.
Yeah, and the way you got to look at it and go, listen, if your growth means bringing in new fans.
Yeah.
And new fans probably didn't grow up racing a motorcycle because do you know anybody that grew up racing motorcycles that isn't a fan?
Yeah.
No, it's like they're all for the most part, it's a small enough, core enough sport where like you've got everybody. It's just super core. It's super tight, family knit.
Yeah.
And so I just look at it like the growth and like the increase in media. Well, the interesting part's going to be what is it that we really got to do to bring in the customers that's not there?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, what is that first step? And that means we're going to have to do something that the industry
hasn't done before.
And that means the word change.
Yeah.
Like, do you know any group of people that don't like change more than, right? Like, we're still living off of two strokes and we think electric motorcycles are horrible. Whether my opinion of that doesn't matter, the reality is, like, as a whole, we live in nostalgia of two strokes and think that electric bikes are hell. And it's like, that's change. Are we going to be okay with change? Do we want to grow the sport?
Oh, well, man, I get it all the time because I'm like, I just finally said it this year. I'm like, you know what? Fucking privateers need to go.
Walk into a stadium.
But I just, and then the pushback that I get.
Is it okay if I jump in your boat?
Yeah, dude, do it. There's plenty of room.
Yeah, I'm in.
The feedback that I get from people is like, but dude, they're the heart and soul of the sport. And I'm like, are they?
They're the history of the sport for sure. They are, right?
But name one 250B practice rider right now. I mean, you're in it. You probably can, but like I can't.
Yeah.
I don't. Does that mean that they're like, I don't want that person to have like a pathway into Supercross? And no,
F2. It's like F2 and F3.
100%.
Let's go make arena cross or make the other thing a viable.
100%.
Yep.
I would want to see, because that guy is actually the dude that I don't know and I've never heard of, and I couldn't tell you, and I'm telling you, like, just get off the track right now, is unreal at riding a motorcycle.
Yep.
So much better than me.
Oh,
so much worth watching.
Amazing.
Like, a dude deserves to be racing in a stadium, but just not at Supercross until you're one of those guys.
Yeah.
There should be another place that you can go that you can build your racecraft, excel, get sponsors, be on TV, get your name your name out of the 250B where I don't know where it is and put it somewhere where it is, you know? And that's change.
And it's scary that
change the model.
Yeah.
You just go, you know what?
And it's so core to the sport.
But it's not like it needs to go away completely, but it's like we need to, for this to grow. And I'm only saying that because, like, when I look at the sport and when I know from the inside out problems with the sport, I just think so many problems and so many things that the top riders, the dudes they're the ones that are carrying our sport.
Yeah.
The privateers aren't the heart of the sport. Eli Tomac, Ken Roxon, Jett Lawrence, like those dudes, they carry the sport right now.
Yeah.
And I know the shit they hate. They hate getting to a track at 8 a.m. and leaving at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
They hate that they're only on the track 4 times for the night. And they hate that by the time the 450 main event comes around, the track is fucked.
Yep.
Like, and all of these things are because there's like 140 guys that are trying to qualify for a 44-man race. And it's just like, if we know the same guys are going to be roughly in that 44 every single weekend, why the fuck are we ruining the experience of the top 44 and the teams and the media? Do you know why I just don't want to go to the press conference? They've fucking been at the track 12 hours.
Yeah.
They're over it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm so with you.
And this is the thing that people don't know that watch shit on the broadcast and comment on Instagram.
Yeah.
That they're the vocal minority
Yep.
that say fucking privateers. It's like, they're not, bro.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing against them and there's nothing, but it's like this whole thing, there's like just changes that should get made to like make this a more like pointed and like precise, like a real product that then you can like it, then it's got the potential for growth. Like just getting 5 practices just gone, giving them a longer time on the track, having time to prepare the track properly. Like, you know, there's just all of these things. You've got more time for media. You've got more time for autographs. You've got more time for the press conferences at the end. Like, there's just so much more.
Everything opens up. Let it breathe.
Yeah, like you open it up by like making it a professional sport. But like you said, change, you know? So it's like people really don't understand why you would want it. It's not like a fuck the privateers thing. It's like, hey, there's a big problem. There's like these roadblocks. There's like this. If this gets moved around and then all of a sudden you've got another series that should be getting invested in that would force people to invest in, you know?
Yeah.
So,
dude, it's interesting. One, I hope you survive the next race that you attend when all the privateers are.
I've been saying it for a while. I've been saying it for a while.
No, like it's interesting. Like, I'll have to share you the list. Like, there's some stats I have where there's like some privateers that have entered 200 plus times and never made a main event. And like, I think they're awesome. They're amazing on the bike.
Yeah.
And I got the pleasure growing up in New England, which has at the time, and I think still does, has a vibrant moto community. Yeah. And the New England Sports Committee was just always a killer place. And guys could make a career racing the A class every single weekend out of contingency money and sponsorship from manufacturers. And like a guy like Keith Johnson, he's a few years older than me, but he grew up taking me to the races, or taking me practicing, I should say. And he owns Southwick now. And like, he rode factory KTM during the 90s. And then he came back and raced in New England, and that was his job, racing in New England. And that was a privateer job in many ways. And he made money. Yeah. Like, he could do that as a job, right? And so it's not that you don't want to, for me, it's not that you don't embrace the privateer, but like there's got to be other avenues in the sport, depth in the sport. Yeah. I look at it, here's one that I think you'll probably resonate with. One of the changes that really caused the core fan, I think, to get kind of peeved on is when the broadcast switched to run the 450 heat races first.
That is the best thing
ever
that they could have ever done. Dude, Arlington this year, watching Eli Tomac first in that heat, the fucking speed, bro.
Amazing.
I've been to so much shit.
Yeah.
That was the fastest I've ever seen dudes ride on a Supercross track. It was mind-blowing, bro.
Yeah, dude. So like, if you
how people hated on that,
it was amazing, right? People are so upset. So
I was like, I'm done with all of you. I'm never listening to any of you because that was amazing.
So this is change. Back to the point, right? This is change. People don't like change. So literally, by putting the 450s first, like, who do we want to see race the most? We want to see Jett Lawrence, Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, Ken Roxon. That's who we're there for.
Yeah.
We used to have to wait. We would start the program and we'd talk about they're tied, cheering the red plate.
Yeah.
And you'd wait an hour before you saw them on track.
Insane.
The casual fan, a potential new fan, would have to wait an hour before they saw the best riders.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're upset because what we've done is put them first. And what we're sacrificing is the least valuable 4 riders in the entire 2 main events. The thing that a bunch of people got upset about was that the 250 LCQ guys had 15 minutes to prepare for their main.
Yep.
And truly, no offense to you guys at all. Like, I love every rider. I want to celebrate them all. But like, in the stack rank of the 44 guys that are going to go in the 2 main events, those are the least 4, most of the time are the least 4 important riders on a track from a value perspective of the ecosystem, right?
1,000%.
And so what we have is the
this
tail
is a
wagging.
meritocracy. Let's not make any mistakes.
It's the tail wagging the dog. Like,
Yes.
we need to optimize for the stars of the sport. And that's what's going to bring in different sponsorship. That's what's going to bring in different consumers. But that's change. And like, that change is typically hard for our core fan. And yeah, now I'm going to die when I go to
But
Denver.
people need to hear it, man. Like,
Yeah.
people honestly
Yeah.
need to hear it because like, and that's when people would be like, what have you got against privateers? And it's like, nothing. But the thing is that every single time, so in-ear communication, that's my big thing. I've been saying it for like years. It's finally starting to gather some momentum. But I talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And the messages I get in my DM. But what is the privateer going to afford it? Not my fucking problem.
Yeah.
It's a professional sport.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck
It's
how they pay. I don't care. But their bike, how much is that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, props to all of them putting the effort together. Like, I think it's so difficult to do it. They're obviously incredible riders. Even just to put one
They're
lap together on
amazing,
that.
dude.
Absolutely amazing. But it's just, that's not the show that we're there for, right? Like,
Well, but think about like Logan Carney did the podcast, right?
yeah.
And he said
Killer
he's like,
privateer. Yeah.
yeah, he's one of the best privateers, right?
Yep.
And he'd be like, you get midway through a main event, he's probably 5 seconds a lap off a 50-second lap time. So he's over 10% slower than the guy winning the race. If you were 10% slower than Max Verstappen, you are not allowed on the racetrack.
Yeah. It's just,
Like, you would not have a license.
yep.
Like, so we need to keep that in perspective. And I think that no one's getting a fair shake. Like, the factory dudes aren't getting a fair shake at it because all of these concessions get made to deal with the bottom 1%. And then the bottom 1% isn't really getting a fair shake of it because no one cares. There's a few core fans that are like, oh, I love the 450 LCQ. I don't. That's when I go get groceries. You know, like, I've got shit to do. I live a bit, I live a
3
busy
hours
life.
is a big commitment.
Yeah, I live a busy life. That's when I go get groceries, and that's when I'll start cooking dinner.
You are missing some of the great racing.
I know,
but again,
but
it's for the 18th through the 22nd slot on the gate.
Yeah, I know I'm missing some great racing.
Yeah.
I know they're great races, but like, I just got other shit to do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, they're not getting the fair shake either. Now, the other thing, right? So this is just, I'm on a rant. Fuck you.
I love it.
Welcome back. I haven't done a podcast in a while, so now I'm just in.
That's great.
Get a guy like Logan Carnier.
Yeah.
Why is he 10% slower than Jett Lawrence? Because, and he'll tell you, he just doesn't do all the work.
Yep.
And so why? Because he's a different cat. He's a different personality, right? He's not Jett. He's not Eli. He's not Cooper. But he's fucking cool.
Yeah.
And if he goes over into this, let's say, I wish Feld would just buy Arena Cross and just like UFC style, you know, like they own the big one, then they own the small one. And then
F1, F2, F3.
Yep. I wish they'd do that. And then Logan Carnier can drink beers and go to after parties and win an Arena Cross, which
Jenny
like I
Stevenson
would
be
watch on
pumped
TV
right now. Yeah.
And then you got Stank Dog, who's cool as fuck, who could win that. And you get all these guys.
Yep.
Now they're winners again.
Yeah.
Because they
become stars
win.
again.
Like, they're great riders.
Yeah.
And then you start winning. Logan Carnier, Kevin Morans, Cade Clayson. Like, these are really, really cool dudes. So I'm sitting here saying, fuck privateers. And it's like, in terms of the show, the top 20 best dudes in the world.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're good. That does not mean I do not want to see them. I want to see them in a place that is built for them, that they can shine and they can become stars and they can, because you get the hardcore, like if you've got, it's the same as any sport. Like you've got these like multiple places where like NFL, college football. You're not watching college football.
Major and minor league baseball.
Major and minor league, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So you start getting these stars, and then there's teams that are going to be in there, and then private, like Kevin Moran's is going to run a race team, like his own. When he retires and stops racing, like he's still super young, but like he's killing it.
Yep.
And so the opportunity that you start creating for these privateers by kicking them out of Supercross will be like the best thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And guaranteed that if there's like there's a system where it's like every factory team, there's going to be 10 manufacturers or whatever. Like how many manufacturers is there right now?
I think we're at 9 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 18 spots. So if you
mandatory
mandatory require a team to in a 450 class to have 2 450 riders on every gate, no matter what happens, you can't not show up with a 450 rider. Then you've got 18 spots. And then Feld can have 4 spots to give to whoever they want, right?
Yep.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
Everyone's a factory rider. Then you probably have Lars going like, fuck, if anything happens to one of the boys, like I got to have someone. All right, Phil Nicoletti, you're my reserve driver, you know? So like a big shakeup like this could be such a net positive.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just looked at as like, don't change our sport. Don't touch it. Leave it. It's amazing. It's like, no, it's not. The guys that are racing it think so much is shit.
Yeah.
They know, not you.
It's an interesting piece. Like this is like chicken and the egg challenge. Like, do you make that?
Thanks for listening to my rant.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I know.
mate.
I think it's like a really valid point. There's the summary thing I'll say is, if you grow the sport, then if you push it up further and it gets bigger, then everybody gets more opportunities.
100%.
When the tides rise, everybody benefits,
Yep.
right? And so I think in a world where you grow the primary top, you grow F1, then there's more opportunities in F2 and there's more opportunities in F3. You grow NASCAR and there's more opportunity in Xfinity.
Yep.
You grow the NHL and there's more opportunities in the AHL and the ECHL and the OHL.
Why?
And
Because you need to feed the beast.
Yep. And there's just the talent gets more opportunity, right? You see that more often than not. And so in a way, this is where the chicken and egg issue comes in, is like, do you make the changes before you have the growth to grow it? Or do you wait for the growth to naturally take place and then slowly make those changes, right? But it comes down to, you've got to kind of lead that way with that vision and have that vision and recognize like, who are you looking to attract from a consumer, right? What customer do you want to get? And make sure you're clear about that.
Yeah.
Then go build a product for them, right? And then know that you're gonna make changes to the way it runs today, because who you're going to attract, who you have, and who you're going to attract are likely going to have some different tastes, and you're going to have to balance that. And that's the case of any product, right? Again, I'm corporate nerd here. Like the reality is like, you build Xbox and
product market fit.
Yeah. And like it's totally product market fit. You're looking at it. It's like, oh, when the Wii launches and it's got this thing and everybody's going in the living room in a family, like the hardcore gamers are like, I'm not going to get that. That's stupid. And then they got girlfriends, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, maybe I will do that, because that, like that's going to get me in the good graces to go play more games. But like the end of the day, that grew the market. That was goodness for everybody involved, and gave everybody more opportunities, more jobs, more money, greater salaries, more opportunities. And so I don't know. I think we just got to look at like, hey, if we want to grow the sport, if you want to see that stuff happen, you're going to have to decide what consumer you really want. That's not easy to figure out, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I guess I hadn't really thought of it like that. I mean, in my head, like I kind of am thinking about it from just like what I'd like to see as a fan. You know what I mean? But maybe
you're a core guy.
Yeah, but I'm a core guy, but like I'm trying to make all these changes. So where do I even fit?
You know what? The number one thing we changed. So when Wii comes out and kicks our asses on Xbox, you know what the biggest thing we did was?
What?
We changed our hiring strategy and no longer hired core gamers.
Yeah. We
hired people like that played the Nintendo Wii. You want to know why? Our intuition was no longer good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think
it's just recognizing like you will create the product you want.
Yeah.
Is there any more of you for us to grow with?
Yeah.
If there isn't,
Yeah.
then we probably need to seek voices that might be hard to hear.
Yeah.
Right. And it's tough. And like, you know, I brought my wife to I don't know, we were probably
This is a great metric.
Yeah, here's the wife test, right?
Yep.
But we're probably dating for 6 months at the time, and I bring her to A1. I'm like, okay, well, this will be a good test, right? Before
If you don't like this, you're walking home.
it's like if she can't enjoy A1 where the energy is. And the comical part is she really only likes to go to the races when she can sit next to me, because I'll give the secondary story behind the riders.
That's exactly the same.
It's kind of like the stats and the data is a different secondary story. There's personal stories, which is why, like, here's the thing for riders, when you're getting interviewed, take your helmet off. Like, nobody makes a connection with you
My
when your
wife's
helmet's
favorite
on.
rider is Joe Schmoder because he's cute and Japanese. That's it.
Yeah, and we can critique that. We can be like, oh, that's just not what moto is. And it's like,
No, but that's
what it is for her.
That's someone
legit.
that's like not in the sport at all. She didn't even know what dirt bikes were. She had no idea that it was like, she thought it was silly that was a real thing that people could get paid to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's like a good yardstick of like, what does somebody with completely fresh eyes think about this?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I think, like, when you bring in people that don't have your way of thinking, they're going to challenge the way you think, right?
Yeah.
And the key is, can you actually embrace that, right? And even me, like, here I am. I grew up in the sport, right? And when I built the database, there was some dignitaries that blacklisted me because I was a threat. And it was like, I didn't know this, but it was like, I did it purely like I was hurt. I had a ton of downtime, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to build this database. I'm going to try to build 1 year. Right. And it was interesting to see the reception. I'm like, I grew up in the sport. Like, my brother was a Team Green guy. Like, I can still call, old folks that the Rick Zilfelder of Factory Connection. I can still call them up, and they'll pick up, and we'll have a great conversation, and just family friends. And like, I was still kind of like on the outskirts of the inner circle, if you will.
Yeah.
And like, here it is. Like, people are like, who the hell are you? And what do you think you're doing? And what are you doing here? And like, Weege will love this because it's like, Weege is like an innocent guy, and he's such an awesome dude. But I remember the first year I'm sitting in the booth, and he comes into the booth, and he had always asked me, he's like, what the hell are you doing?
What are you doing back there?
Even before the boot thing, he was like, what are you doing? Like, why did you do this? Why did you build the database? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like, I'm a data guy, and I wanted stats in the sport, and I had 6 months of a knee injury. I had nothing else I could do. But he comes into the booth, right? And he goes, oh, so you've got the job you always wanted now, right? And I was like, dude, I didn't even know this job existed.
Yeah.
I was like, no, like, I had no agenda. I had no reason for building the database or doing, like, it was just
an interest.
Yeah, it was an interest and a passion that just like led
and you
to.
had like this weird specific knowledge of how to do it.
Yeah, and like total, like, there's not a lot of people that. It's funny. My first contact at Feld, super good dude, Sam Gomez, just really, really awesome guy. And he was like, man, he's like, there's not a lot of people that are data nerds that love moto.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I was like, yeah. And I've now met maybe 10 of them or 15 of them, right? Like through doing it. But anyhow, the point being is like, I knew a lot of people within it. And even then people were like, who the hell are you? And what are you doing? And what change are you going to cause? And is, even another media dignitary that we know and love on Monday nights was like, oh, you might take a job from somebody. And it's like, dude, if we all grow it, it's not taking a job from anybody.
That's the problem, is so many people think of shit as zero sum.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro,
it's not.
You go play a zero sum game over there, but I ain't fucking doing that. Like, I'm just doing my thing, and it adds to the pie. I'm not taking your pie.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in some ways the sport is so competitive that it breeds zero sum, right? Like, if you're not winning, you're second, right? Like, and so by the nature of the sport, we're all super competitive at some level.
Yeah.
And so like, that's going to be tough to get away from. But I don't know. I just look at it and I go, from the corporate side of it, I definitely look at it and go, man, we're going to have to hear some voices that maybe you're really uncomfortable. We're probably going to have to try some stuff. We're going to have to be okay with failing. Like, failure is part of success. Like, if you don't think so, like, I like to joke with Carmichael how many times he's lost a race versus how many he won, right? Like, just because I can needle him, because he's obviously the GOAT and deserves utter respect. So anything I can like tease him on like that. But like, the reality is you got to hear some of that contrarian voice to make change and progress and to grow.
Yeah. What do you think about the in-ear comms, that kind of argument that's been floating around? Do you have any take on it?
You know, it's funny. My dad used to have this with my brother and I as a kid, and then it got banned in our local association.
So you guys used to do it?
Yeah, my dad did it for a week. I want to say we did it for like maybe it was half a season, and then
they clipped it.
Yeah, they were like, all the other dads got pissed off, and
losers.
I think that was the case. I was pretty young, but but I know I hated it because the last thing I wanted was my dad in my ear. Like, as a kid, I just wanted to ride for fun, and my dad was like, "What the hell are you doing, looking backwards? What the fuck?" But I think from a viewing perspective, absolutely amazing, right? Like, hearing what an F1 driver is saying during the race and when they're talking to the crew chief, and like, come on, take a guy like Kimi Räikkönen. Like,
funniest motherfucker of all time.
In the middle of the race is like the quotes the number of clips of that guy just being like,
yeah, he's a man.
He's like, okay, that's nice. Now shut the fuck up. Right? Like, he's like, we're done. Like, let me go drive the car and race. Right? Like, those are moments in time.
Dude, even Lewis Hamilton this last race.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, oh, they're such and such is coming behind you. He points 2 a lap quicker. And then Lewis is like, I can see him in my mirrors, man. Let me drive. And it's like, that's real. Like, that's like a line from a movie, know, and you feel it. You get like the little bit of anxiety, like, ooh, ooh, you know?
Right? You
it's
so
real.
What's happening there. That's the connection that people make, right? So I think, like, I'd like to think it's inevitable, right? That we'll get there. And it's just, again, it's change.
Yeah.
And so instead of being afraid of the change, let's break it down. Right? Like, what does it actually technically require? What are the rules around it? How do you make it fair ground? Like, what are the balances of those from a competition perspective?
Yeah, and like, what's the minimal viable product?
Yeah.
Like, we just have one way from race control to riders purely for safety?
God, it's so good.
And then it's like, then do we open it up? And then I think what we should do is have like a feed, like a rider feed. So where like the riders are being recorded, just like think about the Barsha Jett thing, think about Ando Jett, like just think about the.
If we had it on the Ando Jett conversation.
Bro. Like, that's huge, man. Yeah. Like, enormous.
And taking no sides to either one of those guys, right? Like, that's a moment in our season that has to be.
It's a moment in Supercross history. And then think about the time that James and Chad, like, just if we could go back in time, think about. If every single show, like you have your intros and stuff like that, and you're showing those, or you're doing your pre-race build-up shows, and you've got that audio, like the context, the layers of context that gives to the stories is just priceless. And we have nothing.
Nope.
50 years of nothing.
Take even like last week, Nashville, you got AC leading the heat race. And like, he goes over the finish and he throws an arm pump, and you could tell during the race the crowd was starting to just like, there's a murmur and a build. It's like, wait, is AC going to get a heat race win the week after he tells us he's done?
Yeah,
right. Like, here's a golden child of our sport who we just generally speaking love, and he's just such an awesome character. Can you imagine him being able to hear because there's no doubt he would have been like hooping and hollering, right? You would imagine.
Or like even getting the audio of Hunter coming up to him after, because Hunter would have been like, bro,
I'm sorry, dude.
So sorry, Like, that's like beautiful moments to capture for the sport, and like, that's the stuff. And again, it's like the wife test.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of shit that my wife cares about, and like, even think about like growing the sport, right? Just think about if every dude's wife wanted to watch. You've literally doubled the audience of the sport. Dude. Like, that's how impactful we can be in terms of like numbers of growing the sport.
Yeah. The opportunity is there. Yeah. I think the communication stuff would be so cool. It's just another way to tell stories. To me, I look at that stuff again as data. Like, it's an audio piece of data. It's the same thing. Like, again, just overlay it to the stream of data that you're getting from a bike, from the rider, from the lap times, and you just put that timestamp on it, and man, you can just tell a different story. You're gonna like when Levi went down and right, like devastating moment. Like we've all been there where you're just sitting and buried into the ground and you're like grunting.
Yeah, think about how much more like visceral and experience.
Yeah.
Like, dude, think about Austin Faulkner, like that Arlington crash.
The
like just
emotion.
to hear the pain and it's like, I don't know whether it sounds bad as I'm saying this right now, but it's like you don't want to hear that as like and take joy in it.
No,
But it's fucking real.
yeah,
You
that's
know, like,
the sport.
There was a clip. I don't know if you saw when George Russell got stuck in.
This was
And
recent.
I think it was at Melbourne Grand Prix. And he comes around one of the turns. He loses the back end, hits the wall, flips on his roof, and he's in the middle of the track upside down. And he's like, red flag, red. Like he's yelling for them to like red flag it because he's blind. You can hear the like fear and and it was like, Jesus, dude, like this is gnarly, you know? And we always tell people how badass our guys are. That's like the one thing every core moto fan is like, we're the fucking badass.
Yep.
And we are. Like we are, even a dude like me and you, like you've fucking broken your neck for your hobby.
It happens.
Like we are like we're badass dudes when it comes to this. And that's all we do is tell people. Why can't we show people?
Yeah.
You know, and like those types of things would help us show people. And that like you bake that into a broadcast, like you think that someone's not going to see something like that and have the sound and the emotion and the fear and like that paints a pretty epic picture of what's on the line for these guys. And I think that really tells the story.
You know, I've not listened to what the detractions are from it. Like why you wouldn't want the communication.
Oh, because a rider's head would explode if you spoke to him in the middle of a rhythm section.
Yeah, I mean, but like.
Literally, that's what people think.
And I mean, as a rider, I can fully appreciate you're in the zone, you're in the flow. You don't want, like, there's going to be certain riders that aren't going to want that, but like, that's just common sense for the team, right? Like if a mechanic assume the mechanic is your primary or the team manager is a primary that's going to be communicating, man, they're talking about strategy to the nth degree. It just becomes a piece of the strategy, right? Like, hey, here are our places on the track. We're going to talk to you. Yeah. Like crossing the start straight, you're going to get.
Exactly,
like, you're going to, over the triple in the middle of the year, we're going to, there's multiple places where there's just, quote unquote downtime. Yeah. I don't know. To me, it feels like it would just add so much to the viewing experience. And quite frankly, I think it would add to the competitive part, right? Like I can imagine that people would be worried about changing the competition, but like F1, NASCAR, they're all talking. You got spotters. You're getting that information and that feedback. Like if everybody's got the same access to it, then hey, it's the same level playing field. Like,
well, think about, if the data's real time, like Eli's 0.3 faster in this segment, or Jett, 0.3 faster in the sand. Yeah. Like you can literally just say Jett's 0.3 faster in the sand.
Yep.
Eli is physically capable of going that speed.
Yep.
But and I guess that's a bit of the chess game, but it's like he just doesn't know.
Yeah,
like
the chess will just move.
Yeah, exactly. It just becomes like a different game of chess, you know.
Yeah.
But also just like purely the safety element. Think how many times have you been
the red
sitting?
flag in St. Louis wouldn't have ever been a problem. Yep.
And dude, that to me, I was so pissed.
Yeah.
Like my wife's literally going like, don't post that. You'll lose your media pass. And I'm just like, I was fucking livid because that to me is like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing that I had at the club day in North Queensland with 100 riders entered.
Going into the history here. Yeah.
Just like that, the same system. So that you're telling me at the pinnacle of the sport on a stadium floor in the US with the best riders on planet Earth, 5 of the fastest group of riders that the world has ever seen had the ability to miss this. We're doing something wrong massively. And then it impacts points and overalls. Yeah. And like, who knows how it affected Jett. And then like, shouldn't we want to remove that layer of fuckery from the sport forever?
It definitely.
I do.
There's, it's interesting. Like I'm sitting here going, I don't know, man. The outcome of that ended up being a closer points battle. So in the end, the fan kind of benefited from the fuckery, right? But
it can go either way.
Yeah, the safety piece though could be huge,
safety.
right? Like just everybody getting that piece. So I don't know. I think it would add to the sport for sure. I've not really thought through the detractions from it in any depth or length, but like to me, it feels like, again, storytelling, better stories, right? Like I just live and breathe the idea that, building the database to me was in doing the stats is like it builds a better story.
Yeah.
And to me, having that communication, hearing what a team manager is going to say or hearing what a rider is going to say or a mechanic and what they're going to communicate back and forth, it just adds to it. I look at the F1 for me is the example there. And dude,
because it's boring racing.
It's
crazy boring.
It is, it's interesting. Like you're specifically F1, you're saying? Yeah. I mean, there's times where you got Verstappen out there
It's
just
so
killing
boring.
it, and you're like, okay.
But it's still entertaining.
Yeah. And because you get these other streams of data, you get these other stories, these secondary stories. I mean, come on. Moto can have, it's funny sitting in the booth and there's points in a main event or even in a heat race where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is boring right now. Like there's nothing happening on track.
Yeah.
And for me as a stats guy, that becomes the point where I'm like, oh, I need to get different weeds, something. Like, that's when you want to, you're like, you need to get them. Like I feel and own it. Not that they can't. I mean, those guys are such pros. Like they can tell stories and it's really amazing to watch that part of it. But like, if I can give them something that's just like a texture of somebody that's out that they can talk about, that RC can comment to, like, it just adds to it, right? And so we get plenty of those downtimes in races, right? It's like those dreaded moments, like that's where the communication just becomes, that's where something like the layered on dartfish stuff becomes additive. That's where like real-time segment pieces where you show, hey, the reason that he's got a 9-second lead right now is because he's killing it in the sand section.
Yeah.
That's when all that other stuff comes to the top and is amazing, right?
Yeah, or like riders are just doing different rhythms and it's like, what is this worth? Like, the week before when Eli and Jett were the ones doing the 3-3 in the rhythm section, it's like, what is that worth to actually do that?
Yeah, and Foxborough there, Yep. So I don't know, I think the comms would be, seems like to me it would be pretty awesome.
So what program are you using for the database?
Yeah, nerd stuff. This is where I'd say I joke about this, like I'm not the best data guy. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't written code in any way, shape, or form or done the work in 10 years. Like I've been in a leadership position for, like I've taken 25 steps back in my career to do this, right? Like it's like people look at me and they're like, aren't you sacrificing a lot of retirement income? And it's like spades, like 10x. But all to say, like I'm not technically, like there's plenty of guys, by plenty, like 90% of the data community is frankly better than me at coding and tools and making this stuff happen. I'm just Travis Marks. It's like, you're just glutton for punishment, man. You just were willing to go and rebuild the full history. But I basically have got a basic PostgreSQL database for the nerds out there that sits in the cloud. And then I parse the data out of those PDFs, which is miserable. And the magic isn't necessarily the tools or the code, because quite frankly, I think anybody can do that. There's a little bit, which is the leadership piece, which is I know how to build the data model to actually do insights. Like, and that's the training piece. So like, why does Alden Baker, why does his program seem to do really well? Why is John Wessling and Alex Martin in troll training, right? Like you can see Anderson's clearly got energy at the end of the races this year, right? Like, not to say he didn't before, but like I've noticed
the data shows.
Like he's stronger this year at the end of the races, and like they've got a training program that works. And so in many ways, like the equivalent to the training program for data is like, it's one thing to get the data out. It's one thing to put it in a database. It's another thing to actually put it in a format that makes it so you can answer the questions that you get from everybody. And there's a little bit of, that's like, somebody just highlighted the place where I screwed up recently, but anyhow, that's a little bit of the place where there's some magic to it. And that's the stuff where, it just takes years of doing it in multiple different contexts to learn it. And so I've just been able to build out that model. Yeah.
And what are you Like, how are you building those? Like, what does that require?
Like, let's see, how's the best way to think about it is like an assembly line, right? Like a car, take Ford, right? Like at the beginning of it, there's thousands of parts, and then they put this piece of the car together and this piece of the car together, and then they put those two things together, and there's an order of operations. Like that's what I've got to do with the data. And so it starts as the PDF that we all see off of the AMA website. It starts as that, and then I literally break it down into the tiniest little minute number, like the timestamp at the bottom of the sheet. Like everything on that sheet, I break out into a piece of data, and then I go reassemble it. And at the end of the day, when it reassembles, it's one of those beautiful little bar charts that you were talking about. And it's like, oh, here's the number of wins this year, right? And here's Jett with a bar. That's a red bar because he's on a Honda and he's got 6 wins. And right next to it is Cooper Webb with 4, right?
Yeah.
And that's blue. And so you just assemble it. You just make it look like a beautiful car. And if you know how to do that assembling, to me, that's the magic that comes into it.
Yeah.
There's a whole other end of this, which I haven't even touched on. Like, I'm only one guy, right? The reality is, like, if you're the NBA or MLB, you got a team of 50 people doing what I'm doing, right? There's a full staff or a team of 30 that are doing it. The Kraken have a team of dedicated analytics folks that's 7 deep just for the team, right? So I can only do so much. There's a complete untapped piece, which is around the actual analysis and analytics. It's like the end point of like rider recruitment. One of the things I've started working on is like, how do you evaluate who you should recruit to a team?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Like if you go down and you look at, if you're Triumph right now and you're looking to replace Evan Ferry, who do you replace him with?
Yeah.
Right now,
Moneyball.
In its entirely, right? And there's a couple of teams interested in that sort of insight. And so that's a place where I'm spending time now to like, okay, it's one thing for me to support a broadcast crew. They need data in a certain way. It's another thing for me to go, hey, XYZ team.
This is useful. Yeah.
Like you want to see it this way. Like, here's the guy that, maybe he's been on, I don't know, I'll call it like, take a guy like Cullen Park, right? Who's like rookie of the year in 2022, really good, like a pretty good sophomore year. Unfortunately got injured this year, but like you can see guys like him where maybe he's not on the best equipment on the planet. And that's no offense to Phoenix Racing, right? Like great team and incredible support, but it's not factory Honda, right? It's not factory KTM. But you can see glimpses. You can look at it and be like, hey, you know what? In qualifying sessions, like he outstrips where
he bats above his average.
Yeah, he bats above his average for, say, the equipment that he's on, or the support that he's had, or the level of support that he's received
that
through
he's in.
Yeah, yep. And so you start to see those things. So that's different. Like mining that sort of insight is different than mining insight to help the producer of the NBC show or Race Day Live. So that to me is a place that is another piece of magic that can be done. Like that sort of analysis is really interesting. But the database, building the database in some ways is like such a mechanical, boring task. Like, and it's because of the structure of the data and the availability of it today, it's just like miserable. Like I just want to poke my eyes out. It's like the worst possible thing. And it's just, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Do you have any like interns or anyone that works with you, or it's just fully one man?
No, it's on the data side. It's funny. I'm like on the cusp of somewhere in the next 6 to 12 months. So this is, we'll put this out as I'll take resumes of those that want to break in. That's what I was just thinking. Like,
there's probably people listening to this right now that are nerdy as fuck, and that would be like, dude, put me in, coach.
Yeah, and it's like the problem is like
training people's hard.
Yeah, training, and there's a trust piece because this data isn't data that anybody has, and so like my original intent. Here's the irony, though. My original intent was actually to just make it available to everybody, and I'll be raw here. It was like the way I was treated made it so I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I was treated like, who the hell are you? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm just, I was like, I've got passion for the sport. That's who I am. Right.
This is just public
it was like,
record.
It wasn't, it's like, listen guys, results of a race are not copyright protected. Like it doesn't matter what you put on a sheet. They're just not.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
well, it's just public information.
Yeah. And I was just interested in it. Right.
Yeah.
But anyhow, to the there is absolutely somewhere in the next 12 months, as I look forward to like the 2025 season, my desire is actually to get somebody in, probably a combination of knowing how to work with the data stuff. I can train on some of the data stuff and doing some of the web development stuff. I mean, back we were talking about a little bit, like some of the stuff we're doing on We Went Fast, like what I actually have, I'll go through some of the stuff for you, but like the views of the stats and like the things that I can do and the analysis of it is absolutely amazing. It's one thing to create that in what I use as a tool is called Tableau. It's a data visualization tool. It's like Photoshop for data is the best way to think about it, right? It's one thing for me to create stuff there. It's another thing to go put it on the web. And so really, I think going into 2025, we'll probably want to bring on somebody that can do some data engineering work, support and help there, and then also help on the web development side. But that's some of it is like we need to get some support on the site side, right? The reality is what we I love it. Everybody's like, oh, it must be a killer deal with, you get to travel every weekend of the race and you're sitting in the booth, and it's like, listen, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like one of the best things I get to do is, a Friday night steak dinner with Diff and RC and Will, and like just laughing and having a few drinks and like kicking back. Like it's absolutely, I cherish those moments, right? Like you got to respect that time and recognize and pinch yourself a little bit.
But you're not buying a yacht.
Yeah, but it's like, but I'm like, dude, I'm showing up on the scooter from Dumb and Dumber. I'm like, to the streams of Capistrano, right? Going out to Aspen because I'm going to go find the love of my life on this like archaic piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is like, it's tough to fund building that stuff and being able to support it. And then on top of it, when you're traveling, this. I mean, when you travel every weekend, dude, it wears on you. Like my mad respect to every one of the riders. Like they're just traveling
crazy,
every weekend.
dude.
It's
the mechanics, the truck drivers, like
dude, it wears on you. So
it's a grind.
But yeah, the hope here is we can build enough of the We Went Fast business to actually fund a little bit of taking some steps on the data side of it and expose a little bit more and get that out to folks. But that's not easy.
Yeah, it's just a process.
Yeah.
How much do you think AI is going to change what you do?
Dude,
a lot.
It's massive. So like take my job inside of the booth, right? Like the race goes off and you know what? One that's fun is Eli, was it last year? Eli A1 wins it, right? Like it was just one of those amazing races. Crashes, comes back, just like that place was electric, right? I've got to look up like, how does he do at Anaheim 1? Well, I've got to look up in a dashboard how the hell that happens. AI, I literally could just type in what is Eli Tomac's average finish at Anaheim 1?
So that's in natural language.
Yeah, I could just say
code language.
I could just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is absolutely an investment area.
So how much are you actively working on that?
Active.
Okay.
Yeah. The beauty is like the work that I've done is I have the data very well structured.
Yes.
AI's biggest challenge is the structured data.
Yeah.
And so training from there is actually, that's typically the hard part. And if you don't have well structured data, then it's really hard to do that. So it's not far off from making that portion of the job easier. The reality is I'm relying on the Microsofts and Googles and Facebooks and the others in their progression in AI, right? Like most of this stuff, fast forward 5-10 years from now, it's all going to be off the shelf.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely on the forefront. Yeah.
Yeah. Because even for us, like the capabilities of what we do, because there's such a back end where like I could literally just put out 15,000 pieces of content a month. Like that's how much shit that you could put out, and it's like if you could get, and people wouldn't even notice. Like it's fucking crazy.
Go up to Chat GPT and just be like, write a race report for Nashville 2024 Supercross.
Yeah.
Like ruthless reality for everybody writing their blog posts. Yeah. Those baseline posts are no longer of value because the reality is AI is going to write your first version and then it's going to take a 5-minute edit pass to go finish it.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have all the data, the richness of it will be significantly greater.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a fascinating shift, I think, holistically for content. I'm not up to speed enough to be proclamative and say much more than that, but it's obvious that it's going to make some pretty sweeping changes to a lot of the way content works. And on the data side, obviously, it's amazing.
And I don't think it'll change, like, because there's two sides of this business in particular where it's like, this is just very real, genuine, organic, like it almost can't get any more real than this. But then once that's done, it's all just a numbers game. You know, it's all just like, we do 3 hours of content. How many times can you cut it? How many times can you post it? Like, what's the thumbnails? What's the titles? What's the SEO on the video? Like, I can just go just so deep into that from like the business side of it. And I think that's where it's not off the shelf, but like even for us, you know, to like develop software that's like everything's transcoded, like to be able to have our own AI where I'm like, when did I talk about this? It's right there, time, you know.
Amazing, right? Like
that's
the retrieval.
Going to completely change the game for us in terms of the content that we can create. And, you know, like right now we're editing like two-stroke content and it's like, when did we talk about two strokes? Bang, here's all the timestamps. All right, let's get these cut. Let's figure out how that fits in the project.
Take some great quotes. Let's add it in. Yeah. And AI is just going to make that. So like what would have taken you, if you can remember.
Even tried, and if you even tried to do it, you know, it'd be like me. It'd be like, fuck, did I talk about him or thing? Yeah.
I think when Christian was in, we were talking about, you know, Oh yeah. It's crazy how much it's going to change it. Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about like the actual software and stuff because we just use Airtable.
Yeah, which is actually pretty sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. I've not used it a ton, but I've come close to just like from a workflow perspective. Anyhow, it's nerdy stuff, but it's super cool stuff. Man, it's gonna be like go back to the rider performance thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's just scenarios in my head where I go get the data structured well, and like rider performance stuff becomes really interesting. If I've got all the lap time data structured with timestamps and I got the bike data coming off with timestamps and I got all the bio data with timestamps, I can just align those things up and I can like say, hey, tell me where there was inefficiencies here. Yeah. Like it's going to come back and tell you those things. Everybody gets worried like, oh, it's going to eliminate jobs. It's like, no, it's just going to change the job. The job is going to be, you're still going to have to make sure it's accurate. You're still going to have to make sure the data gets in there in a beautiful way. And like then applying it, like you still need somebody to twist the throttle. You still need somebody to make sure that bike's running perfectly. Like
still need someone that wants to
tune
lace
the
up
engine.
their shoes.
Yeah, like you're gonna need all those things. So it's just a matter of it's just gonna change the way we approach it. And I think there's obviously in this sport there's massive
gains.
Yeah, massive upsides. Like it's my joke of like I think I could save give me 2 to 3 years dedicated into any one of the teams, and I think I can take every one of the top guys in there and give them a second, right? Yeah. And giving somebody a set, like right now, everybody would take a 10th. Yeah, I do think there's a second available, right? Like, what is that? what you know, Jett's? We think Jett's about to go on a run and kill everybody, right? Like, imagine if you gave somebody a second, right? Like that. I don't know. Maybe that was the McGrath error, but I think it's just what AI is going to allow. I look at it in my basic stuff that I do every day to day is going to fundamentally change in the next 1 to 3 years pretty drastically. And I think we'll see some other stuff that's just super, super cool to ponder. Yeah.
So speaking of Jett, from a numbers perspective, is there anything interesting that's worth talking about with Jett?
I mean,
or is it just that obvious?
It's like, it's that obvious, I think, right? Like,
really?
Yeah. I mean, what you see in the results, he's a rookie, right? Like I think it's kind of cool. One of the numbers right now, like McGrath in his rookie year, 93, won 10 races. Reedy in, 2002 was his rookie year. He won 8 and Jett's at 6 right now. I think it's super cool to think that like, you got 2 Aussies in there. Like, can he win out and get 9 wins and beat Chad, right? Like Chad's a competitive guy. There's no way he wouldn't want to like have a little bit of record, right? Like him and Jett there's got to be, I would love to have them just talking about it and like just see if they would give each other shit. So there's stuff like that I think super cool, that just milestones that like Jett's taking a boatload of shit this year, right? Like
crazy to me.
Yeah. And
also not though.
Yeah. I mean,
we fear change.
I was just gonna say, I'm like,
do you remember that bit from Wayne's World? It's like
I don't know. Now I
need
need to look up the.
Need to get the meme, but there's like I can't remember what it is, but they're like in the little basement fucking around. They're like, we fear change. It's
Dude,
like, that's Moto.
I need that meme now.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll hear. Anyhow,
Yeah.
there's I just think Jett's going to do some stuff that's just amazing, right? He's taken so much crap this year, but the on-track performance and what he's done, like you look at the lap times in particular, and there's just sometimes where I look at him, I'm like, man, he just like takes Nashville as the most recent one, which is in my head. Daytona sticks out to me.
Daytona was crazy.
Yeah, and it's just, and he didn't, JT and I have had some back and forth, and it's like, hey, JT will say, hey, he didn't have pressure. Like he probably could have went even faster. And
at Daytona.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he could have
of course,
right? Every lap that
Yeah, and I take crap because I'll just stick to the facts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll be like, listen, if it wasn't for that section, they were there. So I'll Eli, and I'm not stupid enough to not believe that Jett could have amplified it up a little bit more. Anyhow, but I just look at something like Nashville in that sand section, and the reality is like 3/4 of a second is massive for a segment of the track that's 10 seconds long.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that he has that advantage. He does that 70% of the time at a track. There's one or two segments.
Just one section.
Where he just rips it and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that happens a lot with guys that win. Take Ken Roczen and Glendale. Like Glendale, you think there are 2 super long rhythm lanes. Like there's like a lot of jump segments that you'd think were all the key. And it's like there was 2 180 degree turns.
I was going to say it was probably the flat turns in
Dude,
Glendale.
the 280 degree turns is where Roczen had a 0.2 second advantage over everybody. That's where he won the race. Like from doing 2 180 degree turns was what these guys, not me, these guys would say were probably pretty basic jumps.
Yeah.
And that's where he wins it. And so Jett does that so often. And it's just like he makes it look effortless, and he hasn't really felt tremendous pressure. Maybe he doesn't feel pressure, but the lap time stuff, the segment time stuff just says that like it's amazing. But the reality is you don't need that to notice it.
Yeah,
It's like he's a rookie and won 6 races. Like he's beating some of the best veterans, all-time guys like Eli and Kenny and Coop and and Sexton so I don't know. You don't need the numbers necessarily to show that.
We can't do a race like the Gypsy 500 or really anything dirt bike related without first making an online pit stop at motorsport.com. On our YZ250 project build, we went hard in the paint for everything from our Pro Circuit pipe and silencer to our boys and reeds and everything in between. The same goes when we're getting ready to take on a huge challenge like World Vets last year at Glen Helen, and the Gypsy 500 is no different. To prep for this insane event, we need to kit out our 4 Stark Vargs with moose tubes, hand guards, and some super soft grips, as well as our sag tool and more. To get your bike or body ready to race or ride in 2024, motorsport.com should be your first destination. They have the biggest range, the best deals, and no one has more reliable shipping or better customer service. Motorsport makes it possible for us to make our crazy ideas come to life, and they can make it happen for you too. Head to motorsport.com to kickstart your riding season. That's pretty funny, yeah. You think that with Chad, so I think K-Dub was in the O2 series, Villeman, Tim Ferry. Like there were some good guys, obviously, but like you think about who Jett is doing it against, who Jett has 6 wins against.
I'm gonna get killed from the opinions here, but I'm gonna use RC as my deflector.
Okay.
Yeah, like RC will always say, he's like, hey, I didn't always have the deepest fields or the toughest competitors, right? So I'll just take his word at face value. And like, I mean, he just came in and, I mean, God, what an incredible career, right?
Just
10 championships in a row. Like, it's just, maybe Jett goes and does that, and we're saying it about 2 people in the history, right? But like perfect seasons, not one of them, but 2 of them. And by the way, the only perfect Supercross season, granted, small bike, but like still impressive. The depth of field thing, and I'll don't quote me on the exact numbers, but this year we've got like 5 champions and 140 wins on the line, right? in any of the other previous years, typically there's 1 or 2 champions on the line and 40 or 50 wins on the line. And the reality is, like, the old guys aren't going to like this. Villemans would probably stalk me down and want to kill me.
I know. What, dude, I watched that segment and I'm just like, bro.
Yeah, he was pretty
come
energized about it.
Come on.
No, it's all right. Like, that's
good.
TV
It's
though,
good.
right?
Yeah,
That's the Cobra.
Yeah,
and you got to respect him. The guy was a badass himself,
he was there.
right? Yeah.
He was there. But he's wrong.
Yep. Exactly. But yeah, I just look at it. Guys are racing way longer now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you go right now, like our top 5 guys. So Eli, Jason, Cooper Webb, Roxon, they're all right now in the top 15 for Supercross starts in their career, like in the all-time list. These guys are sticking around forever, and they're still just as good as they were at their prime in many ways, right? Very few of these guys have really seen a drop-off in their performance. Mm-hmm. And like, that just wasn't the case back in the day, right? Like, in healthcare tech, it wasn't the same, and people got hurt, and careers were much shorter.
Well, I think you also saw, I think Wygant has like one of the best takes on this in saying that when you're Carmichael and you win 10 in a row, and then when you're Villo and you win 4 in a row, and when you're Dunge and you win 3, like, so the top guys in the sport, we had like this fake baseline of 27 because of Ricky, and then Stewie did it. Then Villo did it, and then Dunge did it. You know, so like we kind of were living in this like almost false economy of like how long a career was. But then once we started getting into this, like Anderson wins one, Tomac wins one, you know, Cooper wins one, Eli wins one, Cooper wins one. Then you're just not having these dynasties where a guy, because think about the pressure to just go out on top. Like every great champion, it seems like over the last 15 years of the sport went out on, there was like a playbook. Like,
they didn't get replaced.
Go to Alden Baker, win everything, and retire burnt out and tired and rich.
And then show us your personality.
And then become cool.
Yeah.
But like that was the formula, and people followed that formula.
Yep.
But then that formula wasn't like it stopped being the model. And I think just that literally showed guys, and because none of them retired, they all stayed the top dogs. Fresh talent wasn't coming through in the way that it might have with like Villo, with a Dunge, with a, you know, you didn't just get those one-off guys stacked after another. That it just changed the landscape. Yeah. And I think everyone's gone like, oh, you can be 32 years old and ripping if you do this, this, and this right.
Yeah. We've doubled the number of guys that have won over the age of 30 since in the last, since 2000, since Brayton did it in 18. We've doubled the number of guys. And now most of that is, you know, Eli and Marv's in there, Zacho's in there with a win, and but still, like, we've doubled that amount in the last 5 years,
which is incredible for a sport.
And so I look at that, you know, the depth of field thing, and I just like we just got more guys out there that know how to win that can show up on any given night, right?
Yeah.
Whether that means it's deeper or whatever, I don't know. Whatever. I'll give props to RC on this one, and one of these days we'll have the time. We'll go run it. But he wants to do like in college where it's like the strength of schedule, and there is something. There's an ability for us to do that. It's just time.
Yeah,
that's like, give me an intern.
So explain that to someone that wouldn't know what strength of schedule is essentially and how it would apply.
Yeah, like I guess the most basic way is to just look at it. It doesn't matter when you raced. You can just compare how well people did against their relative competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I don't need to race against you. I can race against your producer, and you can race against your producer. And depending on how we do against your producer, you can infer whether you were better or I was better. If you beat him, but you only beat him by a second, and I beat him by 3 minutes,
it's quite obvious. Though.
Yeah, it's going to be obvious that I did, right? Maybe that's the best way to describe it. So the strength of schedule thing would be, I think, a particularly cool way to do it. There's techniques to get at that, but
it just takes time and energy.
Yeah, it's just time and effort, and give me some dollars and resource. And you know, I come from a world of anything's possible, right? Like spending the first 15 years of my career in technology, like the norm is change. If you don't change, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's like, listen, if we ship the same Xbox every 7 years, Like, dude,
No one has a job.
it's like we're all fired. Frankly, if we didn't have something every 18 months or every 12 months, we were going to get fired.
Yeah.
It's just, I was kind of groomed in a way where you've got to, whatever you created before, you've got to destroy the next year.
Yeah.
And so you just get into that mode of like recognizing, and it almost makes you pedantic. Like if you're in the same homeostasis here and everything's the same, you're like, oh, I'm going to get screwed over here. I need to progress, or like, I know, right. The younger, faster thing is going to come. Yeah.
So the Jett numbers is cool. One number that I would like to know, if you know off the top of your head, is all right. You look at Jett right now. It's easy if you don't know the numbers, like similar to that James Stewart kind of reference, where you'd go like, Jett was just phenomenal as a rookie and as a sophomore and whatever. And then but you're looking at that because you have the ability of hindsight. You know that he got a perfect season. You know that he won 3 Lights championships. You know, like, so you can see everything that he's done. So then when you look back at his Lights championship, if you don't look at the numbers, you just think he mopped it. Right?
Yeah.
And then you look at Haiden right now and you're like, oh, Hayden's struggling. He's not going to be Jett. Like, do the numbers say that Hayden's doing better than Jett, or Jett's like, have you run those comparisons?
I'm going to get in trouble here. The numbers aren't glowing for Haiden.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's weird. He doesn't, like, obviously ultra talented and amazing. Right. And you can't take away he's sitting in second in the championship.
Yeah.
So like he's clearly doing something right.
Yeah.
But there's 2 things that stick out for me that, quite frankly, I'll just toss at this point to being 20 races into a Supercross career, 18 races into a Supercross career. The lap times there's nothing that ever really jumps like, wow. And he even said it last week after the first qualifying session, because he was fastest for the first time ever in his career in an A session. And it was like, and I called it out. I was like, wow. Hayden's feeling it today. I don't think he had been better than like 5th or 6th in a session or something. It was like, he was surprisingly, in qualifying, he's never really laid down like those incredible lap times, right? Like you kind of know everybody when they have those, and he's just not had that incredible speed. But there's also a guy named Cooper Webb with two titles that we would say right now, like, I think he's been like 6 times or 7 times fastest qualifier and 6 or 7 times fastest in a main event. In a main event, I think Coop has been fastest 8 times. Eli has been fastest 53 times in his career, right? And like they have the same number of championships. and the reality is, like, at the end of the day, the speed doesn't. But nonetheless, go back to Haiden. I haven't seen the speed piece from Haiden, right? The outright speed. But the dude knows how to show up when the main event comes. So kind of like Cooper Webb, he just shows up when the main event comes. But I still have the question. There's a question mark around the speed. Like, is he going to develop that consistent speed? He's still young, man, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other thing, just really inconsistent. Like, go look at his finishes. And like, again, that you can just toss up to young. But I was expecting this year, like last year I got it, rookie year, and maybe it's just hype and irrational expectations in this day and age on a sophomore year, right? But it's, again, been inconsistent. And it's not just Detroit, right? He's had a few others that are inconsistent, hence why he's down. Was he down 13 points now? Yeah. And so, but again, he's second in points. So, like, take it for what it's worth. Like, ultimately, as we all need to remember, is like the title is ultimately the thing that really matter, right? Yeah. And it's possible that he could still win this thing. And that's, like, for a sophomore year guy to have the potential to win with 2 rounds to go, like, you got to give him props. But it's weird because it's the raw data wouldn't necessarily say, like, this guy is, if I gave you the numbers and said, what place is he in the championship? I think you'd come back and say, oh, he's probably like 4th or 5th in the championship. Yet he's second in the championship. So,
and what is that consistent of his 2 years in the yeah, because it is interesting, man, because it's when you look back at Jett's career, like, a lot of people would remember, like, he crashed out of A2 and like he had brutal. Some issues, you know, like, but then once he figured it out, then it was he stacked them up. And I think that was my question, is like, what do the numbers say in that? But so Jett was just fast, like, he was just fast. Like, you could clearly see results aside that he just always had that speed that you were talking about.
Yeah, there was times you would just see, you'd get a glimpse of like, holy cow, that was ridiculous. Like, is that real? Let me go double check and make sure there wasn't a
Really?
problem in the data, right? Like, and you see that happens. Like, guys just
It
put down the
happens
heat.
now even.
Yeah.
With him.
Yeah. And you see it. I mean, tons of guys have that happen, but like when you see it more often than not is when you start to, that's the superstars of the sport. The speed is maybe the number one thing you really start to see some of the breakout laps. And then the question is, can they put the rest of the story together? I joke that there's 5 stats that really tell you the indication of a championship. See if I can remember them. There's speed, mistakes, and minimizing mistakes. You can look at it from lost positions is what I use as like champions don't lose positions in more than 2 races in a full championship. Starts is critical. The ability to pass. And then you got to be able to win. And it's weird. The last one, everybody's always like, oh, dude, duh.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, no, guys, a win is 3 points more than second to third. That single point makes a massive difference. Like when you go back and look at it and you go through history, you'll see that single point, if you win 6 races, that's 6 incremental points that you got more than the tally from second over third. Like it gives you a padding that ultimately leads to like, oh, I don't have to fight for the win at the final race of the year.
Yeah.
Right. And so the win pieces, it sounds like a duh, but it's actually really, really important to recognize, like, if you don't win and you don't have the ability to actually get it done, then forget it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to pick on Kenny, but like Kenny's had, he even joked about it on the podium the other day. He's like, the number of times Coop has got me at the end of the race. Like, that's why Coop has 2 championships and Kenny doesn't have a championship, right? In the Supercross class. As much as I love Kenny and think he's just an absolutely infinitely talented guy, that piece is so vital.
That speaks to, because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. Unless you want them to.
Yeah. Cooper's last win, for me, made him one of the greatest Supercross racers of all time. Instantly.
Was that was the Foxborough?
Yep.
Yeah.
That win to me was like, just elevated him to one of the greatest in Supercross.
What was it about that?
Because he's not the fastest guy.
Yeah.
Like it's so underrated, man.
Yep.
Like, and I kind of said it in a way when I was talking to Marv, but like I think you have a generation of guys that are in the sport that only win based on speed.
Yep.
And there's like this entire art of the sport that has been lost because all of these guys are waiting until their bike feels amazing and they can go and win from pillar to post.
Yep.
And that's great. But
Webb is
this dude that is doing, he's like the one guy in Supercross that can win not being the fastest guy.
Yep.
And it is insane to me.
Over and over.
The way that he does it, and it's so underappreciated and it's so underrespected. And like Chase Sexton, for example, this season, I fucking love Chase. I talk to him all the time. I'm always sending him messages of like, great ride. You know what I mean? Like I like the dude. He's a good person.
I love the fact that it literally like as much heat as he's taken for the front tire and the crashes last year, for the speed challenges this year, that dude owns it every single time.
And he always shows up.
And just goes back and grinds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's there he is there. He's been there all this year. Impressive.
So he's a guy where like I hate using him as an example, but it's like he's struggling with the bike and he just hasn't had the speed. So it's almost and he hasn't really consistently won this year, right? But I just feel like saying, or if I was in his camp, I'd be like, bro, you don't need to be the fastest guy to win a Supercross race. All the guys you've watched do it in your life have, except for maybe Dunge. Dunge was the other guy that won races when he wasn't the fastest. But there's really not that many. Yep. But it's insanely possible. Dude. And the guy's won 2 championships being that guy. And it's like nobody wants to focus their attention on. It's always the bike isn't good or I'm not going fast enough. It's like, let's stop having that as the predominant narrative in this sport. Let's start looking at Cooper Webb and being like, how does this little motherfucker win?
It's ridiculous, right?
Every single, every season when he's not he has figured out a way to win. So there's something there. Let's stop with the bike and the I'm not fast and I'm not he's making it happen. And I think that Foxborough for me was just like
Amazing race.
top tier. He shouldn't have won that race. He shouldn't have clawed that points lead back. Everybody else would have been like, okay, Jett's just winning this championship. And that fucking dude
Just
digs and digs and and doesn't need to be the fastest. And I don't think he gets praised enough for his ability to win, not being the fastest guy.
So interesting piece there. He, in his 2 championship years, he won the most of anybody in those seasons. In 15 of his 25 wins came in those years.
How many fastest laps did he have?
But so the interesting part, so the fastest lap thing, the reason I actually kind of know it's, and I can't remember if I'm getting which one was fastest qualifier versus fastest in the main. I know it was 6 and 8, and I just can't remember which one they go to. But the reason I know that was because of Foxborough, because he came out and was fastest qualifier.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and I was like, holy shit.
That never happens.
Like he doesn't like, and I was thinking like maybe he's been fastest qualifier like 20 times, but it was like 6 or 7 times. And I'm like, dude, that's
special.
Yeah, this is a special day. Like it's clear
yeah.
that he's coming back after the break and just is like game on. And then he goes out in the main and he gets the fastest lap. And it's the first time he's won and also been fastest qualifier and fastest in the main. It's the first out of all of his 25 wins. It was the first time ever he had been fastest qualifier, fastest in the main, and won it, right? So all of his previous wins, he wasn't the fastest qualifier and or the fastest in the main, which just tells you like that's just him doing great racecraft. And there's 2 pieces. It's funny. I always think about the racecraft in 2 ways. One is during a race, right? Like where do you start at the white line? Where are you at the end of the first lap? Guys that can maneuver in that first lap.
Well, he's been brewing at that recently.
Yeah.
Like even I can't remember what round it was, but
Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, he was behind Jett, like way behind it.
Yeah.
He would have been maybe in like 11th or something if I'm just guessing.
Seattle, he entered the first turn, give or take how you want to count it, in like 15th. Literally by the end of the first turn, he was in 8th.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the first lap, he was in like 4th.
Yeah.
And then that was
brilliant.
Yeah. It was it was like Cooper Webb at Cooper Webb's best, right? It's just one of those ridiculous ones. And then made one of his best podium comments ever. Right? But yeah, he does it, the racecraft during the day and the racecraft during the race, absolutely incredible. But there's also a broader racecrafting during the day, which is like, there's only a few guys that can get away with not doing great in qualifying and progress. Like Kenny is just known, like AP, like AP in qualifying. Like any fantasy person that bases any choice off of AP's qualifying is like, Blessinger's just horrible. Same with Barsha. Like those 2 guys, Kenny, they get away with it and they still perform in the night show. The reality is, like, your day starts with that first qualifying session, and you can see the guys that just build.
It's crazy how important it is. That was one of the things that was the most surprising to me in like 2011 when I first moved to America and first watched the Supercross. I was like, holy shit, if you're not on in the first practice, like you're having a long day. Like it's really, every single thing counts way more than the average person gives it credit for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of it is like the mental aspect of it, like just builds, right? Anybody that doesn't necessarily have the absolute supreme mental toughness probably is going to be impacted by a so-so qualifying session more so. But yeah, you see it in the numbers. The numbers bear it out. Like you can tell when somebody's on it. I can like at the end of qualifying every race, I'll process the lap and segment stuff, and I can pretty easily see the people that are probably going to do better in a main event. Now, granted, you get crashes in the first turn and, external circumstances that just happen, and so those people don't. But the reality is, like, you can see somebody that's having a good day. You can see it after the first and second sessions in qualifying, and you can see it building for them. They've just got an advantage, and as long as they put it together in the main, then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think there is like this mental thing, and I think that's what I see with some guys is like if they're not the fastest, they just don't think they can win.
Yeah.
And it's
see it in the starts.
Yeah, to me, it's like Cooper just seems like he's the one dude on the track that always thinks he can win. And like
incredible.
He does. Like he wins when he technically shouldn't win.
Yeah.
And it might win him a 3rd championship.
Dude, Foxborough, what your point, Foxborough, I mean, I did the film room that week on the following week on his race, and it's just, he was best in one segment, and in the other ones is where he just rode so.
What segment was he fastest in?
It was the long rhythm lane. It was on the booth side of the building, opposite of the pits.
Yep.
That segment there, and you could see it in the film, like you could visually see him. He would gap the guys. Again, it was like a 0.2 or 0.3 advantage that he just was really fast right over the tabletop off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just on it, and he had the advantage there. Chase had the advantage in the sand section. The problem was it didn't set him up for passing opportunities, and so he stuck
And he
with
just
Brian
did the
Kenny
same
forever.
thing over and over and over and over.
God, I wanted to ask him why. Like when I heard him.
That's
on
where
the,
you need comms. Like comms would change that
Punt
situation.
him.
You know, like
Yeah.
if you had someone be like, dude, fuck Kenny right now. Like seriously, I know he's your friend, but like let's go. It's
He's
a lot
not
of
your
money.
friend for these 20 laps.
Yeah,
Let's go.
there's a lot of
20
money,
minutes.
dude.
Yeah.
I think at Seattle as well, just to stay on Cooper's nuts for a minute.
Yeah.
The decision making
Dude.
that he made with Chase that close. Like Chase could have very easily won that race.
Oh yeah. He was faster.
Very easily.
Yep.
And Cooper made the right decisions at the exact right times.
Yep.
And that's like, again, you don't need to be fast. Like if you're making the right decisions that's like quarterback shit. You know,
Yeah.
like he quarterbacked that win. He wasn't just a wide receiver that just
Yeah.
flew down the field and caught the ball in the end zone. Like
Yeah.
he systematically picked apart that racetrack and his competitors to win that race. And I mean, he did the same thing again at Foxborough almost, you know.
Yeah. And Seattle, he admitted to he had arm pump early.
That was
Right?
one of the best booth calls.
Yeah,
Ricky's
RC
ever
called it
made,
early.
dude.
He's like, he's got
Ever made, dude.
that, he might have some talent there.
Yeah, he might know some
Yeah,
shit.
he might have seen
For all
some
the
stuff.
people out there hating
Yeah.
on Ricky, he might actually know some
Yeah.
shit.
I mean, God, amazing call on RC's part. And then for Webb to, dude, phenomenal to just maintain that lead and just the strategy and the last 2 laps there with Chase just hounding him. That's the stuff of Webb.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds you your QB analogy. It's like Brett Favre. Like that dude used to just know how to win races, win games, right? Like he would just run around until somebody was free. Like you just knew the game wasn't over until the actual last second ticked off the clock when Favre was playing, and that's coming from a Patriots fan over here. So Webb just in Seattle amazing, Foxborough amazing. You just got to see why he's in the hunt still, right?
Yeah,
I am concerned. The numbers don't help on the hard pack tracks in Denver. Like anybody that's going to bet against Tomac not winning in Denver has got to be crazy. And it's just so hard packed there, and that's not going to favor Coop. And then Salt Lake's no different. Like that track is super hard packed. So I'm a little bit nervous.
What's the numbers say around hard pack track with Coop?
I'm going to butcher it off, but it's like he averages like a 5th or 6th or 4th or 5th or something on a hard pack, and then he's got more like a podium 2nd, 3rd when he's on your East Coast, your more prototypical East Coast. And I mean, he said it. Glendale's the one where it's like really noticeable. It's like he's averages 7th or 8th there. If you look at it this year, like he just was a normal. So it's great. He was just normal, 7th grade. It was like top 10, like amazing, right? But the hard pack tracks aren't his thing. So I'm nervous for him just in that regard. But man, it's Cooper Webb. Like you can't ever count the guy out. Like if I'm Jett, the last person on the track I want to be going up against is Cooper Webb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Prado, was there anything interesting with Prado when it comes to the numbers this year?
Nothing jumped out.
We don't really have anything to compare him with, right?
Yeah, it's tough. What might be interesting, but the hard part there is the races that he had. The conditions were so damn variable. Yeah. What would be interesting to see is his progression over those 5 races. But San Francisco is like a useless numbers event other than it was a race in Sexton 1 and like there's podium finishers, right? Lap time stuff is mostly uninteresting. San Diego, same boat. Like you can kind of get something out of it, but those 2 are kind of washes, so it's tough to see. It's tough for me to say anything other than the MXGP results tell us that,
dude.
Yeah, he's gonna be plenty good. And
hasn't he just leveled up like massively over there?
I have to assume that some of that's confidence having come here and done well, right? Like I mean, he did well.
Yeah.
He's got to be happy with the showing. I don't have any insight from his personal
he is for
perspective,
sure.
but
Yeah.
like that seemed like a success, right? And it's clear that he's going to come back, and it'll be fun to. And I'd love seeing that stuff, right? Having guys come over and across the pond, having like Marvin Muskin come over and Kenny and all these guys coming over, I just think it makes the series that much more interesting. You look right now and like, what were our championship leaders? We've got an Australian, we've got a French guy, and then an American guy. And like, it's just like, to me, that variety makes it super, super interesting and compelling to watch. And, you know, you can get the Americana crowd all riled up from Baal and Jett leading the way. And, you know, you can get the Eli fans being like, you know, he got his win and he was fastest last week. It's great. I love that bench racing, right? Like, again, it's where the stats can come out. You can throw that stuff in. And, but yeah, seeing a guy like Prado come over, I think that's just going to be, it'll be great fodder. I think it'll take a little bit in Supercross. But I don't have any numbers or facts or stats to like back that up.
Yeah.
Beyond the fact that he's clearly, the confidence is there, and it seems like he probably will enter the pro motocross season with ready to compete with Jett. And
Well, that's what I'm excited for, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I think that Prado and Jett outdoors.
Yeah.
It's kind of the battle that none of us thought we were going to get. He might be the one dude that kind of keeps it interesting because he's going to get every start.
Dude,
it's crazy. Like, and I think, like, I actually do talk to him a little bit, and I think he's honestly just loving life.
Got to be.
He's
feeling it, right?
Yeah. Like, I think he's just in like a really great period of his life. Like, he bet on himself to come do Supercross.
Yep.
It was a dream. I think he did way better than he thought. I think it made him just love his job.
Yeah, and it's
even
been
more.
The fact that it's been his dream forever is Here's the one though, like Eli Pro Motocross Series. Eli, come back next year.
What are you hearing?
Here's what I'll say. On the record, I'll say, man, he was smiling a lot on that podium last weekend.
Yeah.
Man, it would be shocking for a guy that went out in the main event and busted out a jump nobody had been doing and threw down 4 of the fastest laps or 3 of the fastest laps in the first 4. That doesn't seem like a guy that's going to retire, does it?
No.
Right? Like, so I got to imagine we're going to see him race a few more. I love it from a stats piece just because that's going to put him in like some of these other categories of like starts.
Yeah, what does that do for Eli if he races next year?
He basically so if you think about it.
So how old will he be next year? 32?
32, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, 32. He'll be 32 in November.
That's still young, dude.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, in normal, in everyday
moto
life.
Yeah.
Like that's super young. And moto, it's still pretty young. I just look at it. There's 4 stats that are like the primary stats to think about for all time. You got wins, podiums, starts, and points. Like for full history of the sport, we know what those are, right? There's no question mark around those things. Like we should be able to get it. There's some places where we don't have like somebody got to start. There's some gaps in the history, but for the most part, those 4 stats are ones. If Eli races if he races the rest of this year and all of next year, he's basically going to finish in both Supercross and in Pro Motocross as top 3 in all 4 of those categories.
Wins, starts, and podiums.
And points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Top 3 in everything.
And everything. And like, listen, he's not going to have RC's 15 championships, right? He's not going to have McGrath's 7 Supercross championships. And, but dude, like that's why I call him all-time Eli. Like you just got to look at it and be like, it's fucking amazing.
Dude.
Like it's one thing. He's got 6 championships, right? He's got the 2 Supercross and 4 pro motocross, if memory serves. He's got wins galore on both of those things. And to do that for that long, like we haven't seen that ever.
That's
like we saw it with Reedy.
Yeah.
Right? Reedy did it. Wyndham did it in Laraco. But like, and Reedy, I got to be careful because like the end, there was the last 4 or 5 years wasn't a lot of winning, right? Wasn't a lot of great performance, but he was still doing it. So you got to be careful of recency bias. But like Wyndham and Laraco, impressive long careers, but didn't win at the same level, right? Like they won like
they're not top 3
15,
in any of the other.
Yeah, they're top 25, top 30, but they're not top 3. Right. And so to me, Eli is just, you look at the numbers. I love it. I love
There's something
seeing
to
that
be
stuff.
said there. Like, I'm trying to think of like because you think of like a Tom Brady
Oh, yeah.
or like a LeBron James.
Yep.
You know, it's like LeBron James might not be Michael Jordan, but like he's 40
know.
and still,
Dude.
still just piling on points and
So hard.
wins. And, you know, so it's like to be that guy or to be like Tom
Brady
Brady
won his
at
last
40.
He won his last Super Bowl, I think, at 42.
Dude, Kelly Slater, 50. You know, so there is like this class of athlete. Kelly Slater owns everything. But, you know, like to be the guy that went the longest, going the hardest, like that's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I've never thought about it.
Yeah. There's a longevity piece to it, but there's
But there's
performance.
a winning longevity piece.
Yeah. It's like he's won. There's two things. There's two numbers. I shared the one before, 10 seasons in a row with a Supercross victory. He's won at least one race, any class, Supercross or motocross, for 15 straight years. The next, I can't remember who it is. The next longest streak like that is 13 years. So consecutive, right? And so 15 straight years of
And
at
he'll
least
do it
winning.
again next year.
And you've got to assume like he's got to get one, right? Now, granted, around 10 or 11 here this year I was like, man, just get that one more. Come on, get one, you know, like you want to see it. Yeah, it's an impressive run. I just think his career, the thing that also, I look back at the way his parents managed his amateur career. Right? Like that to me is they would hold him back from doing the grind that a lot of the other top guys did as amateurs, right? You've got to assume some of that plays in factors, and both of them being incredible stars in their own right on mountain bikes, and how that factors to Eli's career and his longevity and being able to perform at the level. But either way, I just look at it. It's pretty badass.
And we basically have Jett Lawrence to thank for that.
Tell me more, because he's here and now we.
Because this is my opinion. I think Jett's comments at the Phoenix press conferences
fired him up.
That's where you saw a definitive change in Eli.
Yeah, he got pissed.
And he's been pissed.
Yeah.
He stayed
and
pissed.
then was it Lewis that I had to ask him about retirement and that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, so like, dude, I just don't think that we see this from Eli without Jett.
I like the theory. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. I've heard from that camp that there's a belief that you don't retire on top. Somebody else has to take the throne from you, right? Is the belief. And I think that's his dad's view, maybe more so. I don't know for sure. It's just what I've heard through the pit, right? And he's putting up a fight. Like, you can't look at the last 5 rounds and not say that Eli's working his ass off to compete. So, and dude, it's impressive. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
to see.
I just think it like cements his legacy.
Yeah.
You know, like you've got, it's crazy on both sides of the coin. You know, you've got Jett that has the ability to beat that guy.
Dude.
You know, in his first year. Like,
so
that's
cool.
Unbelievable. But then you've got Eli who has the ability to beat that guy.
Yeah.
Who's the freak of all freaks. And he's 10 years younger than you. And, you know, like the level of dog that you have to have in you to like still go and to go 10 races getting beat down. Like,
that's not easy.
Bro, that was, I can tell you right now, Eli Tomac had some dark days.
Oh, no doubt.
Between round 1 and round 10.
Why am I doing this?
And
There's got to be a few of those in there, right?
Watching Cooper.
He's human.
Watching Cooper do better than him.
Yeah.
Like, no one thought that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Eli would have been the last.
He's a competitor. Yeah. Nobody wants it.
You know, you think of who's been able to bring that out of Eli. And who have you ever seen make Eli have the reaction that he did towards, you know, answering some of the media questions and like.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, what Jett did has really relit something. Because imagine how hard it would be. 15 years of winning.
Dude.
To just keep showing up and keep trying to win. You've made millions of dollars.
So hard.
You've got your entire retirement just planned out, waiting to happen. He's into cars. He's got daughters. He's got a ranch. He's like, he's got everything. He won life. And all
You know?
of that is just waiting for him to go back and enjoy.
Hey.
And this one little Australian fuck shows up.
and
And
he's
it
just killing
relights
it.
a fire that,
Yeah.
gives us like another potentially couple years
Yeah.
of
Amazing.
of America's late like superstar
Yeah.
in Eli Tomac.
You know, another potential theory. I've got a 6-month-old at home, old guy here with a youngin, and I love him to death, and I love family time. But Eli, like that's hard. The race is probably a break.
Yeah.
He's got 3 kiddos at home, man. I asked him at San Diego, I'm like, man, 3 kiddos. I have no idea how you're doing it, right? And obviously he loves his kids. But man, it's hard. Like I'm sure there's a side of that's like, oh, I want to be home and just spend time there. But like it's probably also just motivating,
Yeah.
right?
See ya.
Again, like, dude, when you're on the it's funny. Stuart, when he's on the when James is on the road, it's like, hey, you want to come grab a drink or whatever. And on a Friday night, he's like, dude, I'm away from the kids. I want to go back to my hotel room,
Just sit in silence.
put my feet up, put on the TV, and kick back in silence.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, there's something to be said for that. Right. I've talked to Brayton about it. Like, and he's like, yeah, it's hard. He's like, you love your family and you want to do that, but then you go to the races and it's like a break to it, but then you also can focus. And anyhow, it's,
I can't imagine that.
Yeah,
I'm the most selfish person when it comes to that shit. Because we don't have kids yet. So
yeah. Dude, amazing. It's amazing. I think everybody should do it. I say that now, and I'm closer to 50 than 40. So, yeah.
Yeah,
intense.
but I mean, there'd be something to Eli being like, all right, cool. I'm going to go do my thing.
Yeah.
But like the amount of passion that he would still have for just like the grind, like when you're an athlete and you've got one thing to focus on and it's so clear what you have to do and every decision that you can make is kind of made for you. You know, like if you're doing it right,
dude,
all the decisions are made for you. You know what you got to do.
Yep.
And it's like, it sounds silly, but I did the World Vets race in November last year, and like I took it as serious as I could take it, and I was going to the track 4 times a week, and I was riding a bunch, and then I'd have to stretch, and I'd have to eat right, and I'd have to
drink water,
drink, and it was like it was hard, but it was so enjoyable because all of my decisions were made for me, and all of my no's were laid out for me. Can you go do this? No.
Nope.
Can you gum it? No.
Nope.
Can you do that? No. And there's something so epic about living
structure.
that lifestyle.
That structure is,
And you can be selfish.
Yeah. You saw a guy like Dunge. He came back, right?
Yeah, because I'm sure he missed that structure and that. I don't know whether it's so much structure as it is that, but it's also that it's just so clear the path that's laid. And if you just commit to it, then there's only one way that you can go.
Yeah, it simplifies a lot of decisions you got to make.
Eli's probably that guy that just loves that regime, you know, in a way.
God. And I mean, on the one hand, it's got to be difficult if you're getting 5th or 6th or 7th, right? But if you can sprinkle in the podium and you can sprinkle in
it's
a
just
night
like golf,
like
you just got to
Nashville,
get that one big shot.
Yeah, you'll get one amazing hole and you'll shank the other friggin' 17.
But it doesn't matter.
But you're gonna sit in the clubhouse and be like, guys, I don't know if you saw on hole 3,
Yeah.
but I nailed the green and birdied it, and I'm gonna live off of that for the next month.
That's what they're doing. What was your take on the Jets' perfect season based on the numbers?
Oh man, I mean,
was it a legit perfect season?
Oh yeah,
bro. Was it even legit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can put a single asterisk next to it.
I don't either. I'm of that opinion.
Yeah, like I heard some people say stuff like, "Oh, Eli wasn't there," and it's like, dude, Sexton was, and Sexton and Eli went. Like, I think it's,
I think it's apples and apples.
Yeah,
almost.
I think it's perfect. I think I've heard other people say, "Oh, it was 11, not 12 rounds," and it's like, dude, whatever. Just get off the nut. I think it was impressive. Like a
rookie.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, a perfect season, amazing, right? RC, the fact that RC did twice, frankly, RC went on a run for about 4 years where he won like 90%.
Almost everything. Yeah.
Like here's one of the stats I love. RC has won more second motos than anybody's won total motos. Ponder that one.
Bro.
Dude, it's literally like RC's numbers. Like, yeah, you need to get RC in here and just, and pepper him with numbers. I love giving him numbers. He's like, dude, the only number that matters is championships. Thank you very much. But
that's mental.
yes, it is like second. You just like, there's things like that. It's the way they're framing it, right? The way you visualize it makes a huge difference. His second moto wins beat everybody's total moto wins. Like, it's like, just a mind-numbing amount of moto wins. And he had like a 4 or 5 year period that was just absolutely incredible. Stu, like, come on. I mean, that dude is just, his speed, even when a guy like RC constantly gives the respect of, listen, I knew he had me covered on the speed, and I knew it was going to be strategy that was going to, in fitness, that was going to, ultimately, I was going to beat him by that, right? Not necessarily beat him straight up on speed on his
That's
good
actually
nights.
a good point to my Cooper Webb thing. Ricky kind of had that and the speed.
Yep.
Because he had to, there actually was a period of time where he wasn't the fastest.
Yeah.
So actually the things I said about Cooper and like no one else kind of haven't, Ricky actually had that for a certain amount of time.
And they both have the hate to fucking lose.
Yeah.
Both those guys, the last thing they want to do is lose. Like, their hatred for that is probably significantly greater than their love of winning.
For sure.
It just drove them. Anyhow, those guys, like, perfect seasons, absolutely amazing. Okay, so Jett now joins them as like, and you think about him joining those two names.
Just that.
Right? Like, that's impressive. And then to do it as a rookie. Like, it's like, what? Like, that, I mean, rookies don't do that. Especially now when you've got so many veterans on the line, when you've got so much talent and so many wins on the line. And I'll take a bunch of heat from all the veterans that will say you're full of shit, that it's harder now. But I don't think there's a single asterisk next to it. I think it's absolutely amazing. The data, his lap times, his speed, absolutely incredible. He did it kind of like Stu did it, with absolute raw speed, and just beat his competition handily in every category of the races. And that just is, it's indicative of how talented that dude is.
Was there any, so there was just like clear standout, like second faster, second and a half faster through this section? Like, there was a couple of motos, like Southwick was one that I remember. I think maybe like Ferrandis had a good start, Sexton had a good start, Jett was in like fourth or third, and just like jumped past him on the first lap. And it was like, I remember people saying like, yo, he makes it look so easy. And it's like, that's because in one section, he did something so insane, like alien shit, that then he didn't have to do anything else gnarly for the rest of the moto.
Yeah, and a track like Southwick's going to play to his
strengths.
Right? Like, just that place is, I grew up in Massachusetts and rode there, unfortunately, so many times in that sand disaster, and just, God, it's just brutal. It's just so brutal. But it just gets so whooped out. And just the way he glides across the top, and you can just see the small little things that he's doing when he's entering into braking bumps. And I think it just played to his strengths. And his season as a whole, every number, there's nothing in there that was a weakness. Yeah.
Do you think Eli coming into this outdoor season changes that?
I don't. This is the place where you hear it on the podium in Nashville from Eli, where he's like, "Hey, I had it." I've used this quote in writing a script this week. He said something about having it at the beginning of it. I put my entire heart into it, and man, I didn't have it at the end of the race. And you can tell he's alluding to, I didn't have the fitness at the end of the race. Or at least I think that's what he's implying to it. And I think he's implied that a few times. Like, you know what, maybe I wasn't full force coming back from the injury, and it's going to take some time to build. My worry is, hey, that's round 14 of 17, and he's still not, and he's almost there, but he's still not entirely there. So he's got another, what are we talking, 6 weeks? Not even, it's like 30 days until the pro motocross season starts.
Where that could just potentially get exposed more.
Yeah, and like 30 plus 2 it's a grind. Now, granted, it's Eli Tomac, and the outdoors is where Eli is just he's a real man, right? So maybe he's there, but man, Jett's only going to get better. That was a rookie year, right? Like, rookie years aren't your best year. I always say that the first time you do something is not the best time you do it. Like show me something you did in your life where the first time you did it the absolute best you've ever done it and will ever do it again. Like the answer is there's nothing.
Yeah.
And so rookie year is the first time you ever did it. So like what Jett's done in the last 12 months, you have to assume he's going to progress and get better from there. That means everybody else is going to have to get that much better, right? They not only are going to get their own that much better, but then they have to actually close the gap in performance to Jett. That's a tall task to ask. So I don't know that it changes for the outdoors. I think it's compelling to start to think about Jett, and like I'll get chastised for this, but like it's compelling to ponder.
You're in a safe place.
Yeah, can't wait to post this online. In a safe place. I'll give you a ring when.
It wasn't safe, bro.
Here's some DMs. They hate me. The privateers have abandoned any.
They're just NPCs, bro. They're just NPCs. Just forget about them.
But you got to look at this now, and like with all due respect, like we should celebrate as he progresses. Right. I think MC did say it nicely in terms of like, hey, there's a lot of guys between me and where Jett is today. And it's like, yes, there is. And we should celebrate as he progresses along that path. And when he gets closer, we should talk about it. But you have to look at Jett's progress right now and think that that's an interesting conversation for us to have. And in pro motocross, the same thing has to be said to RC. Right? Like he just won 22 motos in 11 races. Like, is
it's a pretty big chunk.
RC's outdoor stuff is ridiculous, right? Like, it makes everything else in the sport look like nothing, right? More second moto wins than anybody else's moto wins. And so, like, on one hand, you got to look at that as even more untouchable than, say, the 72 wins in Supercross, right? But he just started his rookie. Yeah, and so, like, I don't know, I'll instigate the minions, like, I think you got to have that conversation, or at least we're going to have to start to have that conversation. I think it's fun at a minimum. I'm going to love to just stir a pot. Like, let's have the conversation. Like, what does it take to do that? Let's celebrate the guys that he's going to pass and come close to, right? Like his 6th win, he just tied Barsh's career win total. He's 31st all time already on the Supercross wins list, right? Like, cool. Let's celebrate Barsha now. 6 wins. Hey, that like 6 wins is pretty badass, right?
Yeah, and there's only 35 other dudes that have ever done it.
Yeah, it's like, that's incredible. So anyhow, I think he's going to do some damage on the record books, and yeah, the key will just be how long can he do it, right?
Well, the thing that has kind of bummed me out with the Jett hate, like obviously I'm his friend as well, so like anytime you see your mate getting shit on,
yeah, you don't like that.
Sucks, you know. But obviously, he's a fucking big boy. He can handle it.
Yeah. You got to as a professional, right?
Yeah.
It's the unfortunate reality.
But the thing that kind of blows me away, and it kind of all started with like the MC comment of like, oh, you know, MC's got 72 wins. It's like, he's done everything up to this point that would qualify him to have that as a goal.
It's a reasonable thing for him to have.
If Cullen Park said that,
we got a problem.
You just go like, hey, Metro, shut your ass up and make some drums. Like, you know, that at that point, you have a different conversation. But then when it's the guy that just went 22-0, that won every lights championship that he almost ever competed in, like he ticked all the boxes that one would have to tick to make that call, right? So that's like one thing. And you can't really shit on an athlete for wanting to be a great athlete.
No.
That kind of makes sense.
Nobody's going out there to lose.
Yes. So
he's going out there to win.
That's part one.
And let's see, we're 15 or 14 races into his career, and he's on path. Him, McGrath, and Stu have the same curve of number of wins this many starts into their career. Nobody else was on that path. So, like, the comparable in stats, like, and I'm being completely, you know, non-empathetic, right? And just saying, hey, the numbers say.
Yeah.
Is it premature? Absolutely. Like, is it completely reasonable?
But is it tracking?
Yeah, it's 100% tracking. And you know what? As a goal, I don't see why it shouldn't be a problem to have that as a goal. Lucas's voice is over my shoulder right now, like yelling at me. He's going to love this. He's just yelling at me right now, like, come on. like the reality is, if you actually go back and look at what he said, like, it's been twisted and taken out of the context that it was said in. And like the way he said it and how he said it.
But Jett just isn't a savant when it comes to the way that he talks. If you had Hunter's ability to talk on a podium or in the media with like the way that Jett is writing, it would be a completely different story. Hunter just has a better way with words.
Yeah.
Like Jett is the most innocent,
he's just
like
a kid.
sweet dude when it comes to that. But like
He wants to smile and win and have fun.
yeah, but the way that he says stuff, he just doesn't have the way with words to wrap the things, the ideas that he's saying, like into this palatable experience for everybody. He's just kind of saying it how it is, you know?
I'll throw out, even if he did, so I agree with you 100%. One, right? Let's say he did wrap it beautifully, right? Because you're right, Hunter like seems like an absolutely awesome dude, right? God, I want him to get a win this year. And like, I'm gonna take a boatload of heat because I've been calling it forever. But like at this point, there's no way he's gonna win a race because his brother's gonna need those. Like, I don't care. You guys can all yell at me. If Hunter's in front of Jett right now, there's
I'd be wanting my brother to do the same thing.
I would kill my brother if he didn't.
If Mom did it for Dunge,
It's like,
Hunter's
dude,
doing it for Jett.
Yeah, like come on, it's just gonna happen, and we don't even need to say what's gonna happen. But the thing that I look at in this day and age, it's like it doesn't matter how he said it, whether he said it perfectly. The context of today versus the context of McGrath's era, RC's era, is like I got to grow up in McGrath and RC's era. The news came out 14 days later in a newspaper.
Yeah.
The results came off of a fax in the shop that I worked in the next morning, right? Like there wasn't the dialogue. The reality is it didn't matter how he was going to say it. You're going to have haters online. You're going to have the discourse that didn't exist in previous generations. And so he could have said it as eloquent. He could have said it like Hunter would have said it. All those things could be true. And I'm sure they
still gets flamed.
I think he's still going to get flamed, right?
Yeah.
I'll throw an interesting one out. I wonder too if there's not like the Americana piece, right? Like
for sure.
when you get last year when you get Deegan and Washougal, right? And Deegan's and Hunter going toe to toe.
I'm all for it.
Right? Like dude, that is just like stats or bench racing. It's like, that's why earlier I'm like, man, we got a French guy leading, we got an Australian leading, we got an American leading. Like we couldn't ask for a better scenario because that's just bench racing.
Yep.
And like, come on, pride, of course. And so I think like, I'll just add that into he could have said it perfectly. The communications experts could have made it so that everything got posted perfectly and he was polished and it was like sounded all great. And the reality is he's still going to get shit on.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's just part of it. And I think some of that is, some stuff that people don't even know around nationalism and their pride. And then some of it is just like, people are going to be like, I don't like Jett. Yeah. And people are like, I don't like Eli. And
well, it's just generations too. Like I said a thing that, one of my editors, it was a great piece of content, got a lot of views, but it was basically me just calling them all pussy boys. And it's like, but it's true, like there's a young generation of guys that are into different things, that grew up watching different things, being influenced by different places. Like Jett is not the same guy as Tomac. Like there's a different upbringing. There's like there's a generation apart, and it's like if you're an Eli Tomac fan because you can relate to him, then you can't relate to Jett.
No, you're not going to at all.
Like by definition. That
hopefully you can respect what he's doing.
Yeah.
You can still flame him, but
that's where the difference.
That's
where the difference comes in. It's like we're literally generations apart here now.
Yeah.
But I think the thing as well is like, he kind of did everything that he said he was going to do. Like he's done all the things that would like give him that perspective on his potential ability and like a goal that he should set, right? But then on the flip side, as a fan, you just go, even if I like or don't like this kid, when has the sport grown the most? When there was an extremely dominant young champion.
Yeah, I mean,
that's it.
Yeah, this is a huge growth opportunity.
This is the opportunity.
Yeah,
and then you've also got this wave of like new media and obviously like the new investment for Peacock. It's like $8 million or whatever it is that come in for, I don't know whether it was a year
playoff,
or 2 years.
Or the SMX finals.
You've got the SMX thing. So you've got like this wave, right?
Yep.
You could have this wave with no one.
Yeah.
You could have this wave.
Yeah.
You could have all of this and Eli,
Perfect
Cooper,
storm.
and Kenny all retire and there's just nobody there. But you've got this new wave of everything. You've got the series coming together. You've got $8 million of new investment from just one place. And then you've got a fucking superstar.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's like everybody just like actually sit back, like him or not, just rub your hands together and go like, oh, we've got something. Like, let's
it's a
go.
Story.
Let's go.
It's a fresh story, right? Because like you could take Jett out of the equation, and the reality is we still have Eli, we still have got Coop, we still got Kenny, we still got a lot of.
But historically, when has the sport grown the most?
Yeah. Oh,
McGrath.
when you got McGrath, when you had RC and Stu coming, and I mean, that personality is gonna go a long way, and that's why you want Haiden or an equivalent.
Crazy results.
Yeah.
Like remarkable results.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Who's going to challenge him? That's the question. Like who, you know what, we're getting way ahead, but it's a great bench racing, right? To ponder like,
well, that's
who's
why
going to ultimately challenge. Yeah.
You know, it's like, how does his numbers stack up? You know, because it's like the numbers don't lie. And I'm a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. I'll go through and I'll send you, like, I'll do at the end of this season, like, where's the apples to apples?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is, like, it's just so early. And again, I'll just say, like,
for sure. Yeah.
Cooper Webb, the numbers wouldn't have, like, yes, he won his championships, but his numbers, the stats it's rare where the stats don't 100% kind of highlight, like, clearly this is incredibly special.
Yeah.
But guys, it happens, and you've got those rare times. And again, he's second in the championship. He's got 2 wins this year. Like, he's clearly delivered.
And he was hurt.
Yep.
Like, so Jett had a broken collarbone to deal with. That just basically put him out for those races. So he's kind of like just null and void, you know. But like, Haiden was hurt this year. He said he was hurt. Like, none of us know how much that actually bothered him.
Yeah.
You know, so is there just this season of, you know, like he's not that fast this year because he's literally hurt?
Yeah. We're going to find out. I think it's interesting to ponder, though, right? Like guys like Levi Kitchen.
Levi,
year,
I mean, what do you think? What does his numbers say this year? Because it's impressive. Dude.
Yeah, he's
fast.
There's an example of one where like it became very clear around the second or third round that he had speed. Like you started to see like this incredible speed during the qualifying and incredible speed during the heat races, and it's like, oh, there it is. And then all of a sudden, take like last year. The graphics in the stories I was writing in a preview doc, right, for the staff was like, Levi is Mr. Inconsistent. One week he's on the podium, the next week he's 12th. And it all was based off of his starts. You look at his starts and it's like, oh my God, he couldn't put 1 week to the next week together, right? I don't think I'm talking out of line here, but like he was super inconsistent. This year, all of a sudden, every week is a freaking amazing week, and the speeds there, the stats show it, the numbers show it. So I think Levi is maybe the first one that, you know, he's going to get to see what Jett's doing and learn from Jett, where hasn't necessarily developed his repertoire like some of these other guys who are having to learn something new later in their career, which we all know is way the hell harder than learning early on and just making it your first step. So I don't know. I think Levi looks like one of those ones.
It's funny. I said, I can't remember what press conference it was. Maybe it was A2. I'm pretty sure it was at Anaheim. But I said to Levi, and I was like, you know, what's it take? Or like, when's one of you going to step up and like be the guy? Because there's always a guy in the Lights Championship. There's always a guy that steps up, whether it's Colt Nichols, whether it's Christian Craig. Yep. Like there's always
Hunter last year, Jett. Yep.
Like there's always a guy at round 2 or 3 that establishes dominance, and they more often than not go on to win the championship. And Levi for me looked to be
Cameron was there too. Like Cameron prior to this weekend had literally finished after Detroit had not finished worse than second.
God, I'm so bummed for that guy.
Dude, brutal.
He's such a nice person.
Yeah.
Like incredibly nice. He's Justin Brayton the second.
That's a great analogy. JB's a pretty damn good guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Both those guys were having incredible seasons. So it's a bummer for Cameron. Levi's obviously, well, I haven't heard anything on him.
I think he's
going
to be there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. But I think I look at, you know, Levi, you got to wonder if he can go and, you know, Haiden and Levi and who the next gen is, this next crop of guys, can they step up and see, you know, they're going to step up and watching. I joked at must have been St. Louis, after St. Louis, Drew Adams. And I'm like, well, fast forward 8 years, and Drew Adams versus Jett Lawrence is
Tomac
versus Jett right now, right?
Yeah.
It's just an interesting. I'm like way ahead of myself here,
Yeah,
right?
but that's what happens.
It's fun to think about. Like somebody in that futures class has got to be the guy. Or somebody young in the or coming through now in the.
But Levi's not young though.
No, he's not. But he's not young in age.
But he's young in career.
He's young in career in that he's 19 or 20 starts in Supercross.
Yeah. Right.
Which is Hayden's almost at the same point, and Hayden's 4 or 5 years younger in age. So kind of compelling to ponder. And that's the piece. Like go back to the Haiden thing. Like you got to underscore it's a sophomore year. He's 18. He's like, that dude is going to be phenomenal and amazing. So the fact that the stats don't necessarily.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, could you run some numbers? Can I request some numbers?
Go into my queue of. I love it. Yeah.
What
do you got? What do you got?
Is there? There's just a queue
Dude,
of people
you would have. It is amazing how many people
want to know a specific thing.
Want to know something, and it's like the reality is some stuff is like really easy, and then there's other stuff that's not. And the reality is, it's like it's the joke, and I love doing it. Like there's the requests are normally the things like it's like when Mike Bonacci reached out to me, and it was like I literally just
play Wonderwall.
I literally was just like I just squirrel over. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool. I'm gonna go spend an hour or two on that, right?
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. Like I've joked with Wes Williams, like they had asked for stuff, and I was just like,
join the queue, bro.
Yeah, join the queue, and he was like annoyed with me, and I was like, dude.
You have no idea.
And I looked at him. It was like last year in Nashville. I looked at him. I said, hey, do you mind next weekend shooting some film for me? No big deal. I just need some film. Like I need some Insta bangers. Just go grab me some.
Yeah.
And he looked, he's like, I'm not following. I'm like, you're asking me to do work.
Yeah.
Right. So I joke about it only because, dude, it's super cool. Like I love the fact that fans are asking for stuff. I love the fact that like more and more people, whether it's managers or mechanics or crew chiefs, are clearly looking at the stuff and they're starting to ask questions, and like they don't want to completely lean in because they don't want me to know necessarily that they might be leaning in. So it's super cool. But what do you got? What do you want to? Height? Oh, it's funny. I've actually this year for the first time put in height weight for the top guys we asked at media days.
Yeah, I'm very interested.
It's funny. Like some of this stuff is super difficult because what ends up happening. So you're going to ask this and you're going to be like, now you're going to want to compare to the past. Like one of the big ones is age. Everybody wants to know the age. And they're like, hey, is this the oldest person that's ever made a main event? Is this the youngest person that's ever made a main event? And it's like, for me to say that, I need the dates of birth for every single person that raced from 1972 to now.
Yeah.
In 1972, it means that person was born sometime in 1950.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like some of them are no longer with us. And on top of it, a date of birth is actually private information.
Yeah.
And so like getting it technically requires them to offer it in some way.
So we need some like FBI clearance.
It's just hard. You can get it. Like, dude, I've now got dates of birth for every single winner in the history of the sport. Right.
Wow.
So, and that took Brett Smith and I literally calling some of the old guys at their places of work. We like sleuthed where the heck they were working, like just like investigative work to try to like say, hey, we want to be able to at least talk to age of winners. So anyhow, on the height thing, I've got it for what I would say is like your top 40 or 50 this year. But like, dude, it's so hard
to go back and
because then you look at it, it's like, was Carmichael the same height his rookie year as he was 3 years into his career? The answer is probably no, because he started when he was 16 years old. Same with Bradshaw, and the weight changes every year. And like, it's stuff that you look at and you go, oh, that gets really hard really fast.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm overcomplicating it, right? The joys of being a data guy that gets analytical on stuff, but it's not, those ones tend to be harder than not.
That makes so much sense.
But I can totally look at current guys and like this year, the current guys this year. And one of the things I want to do is actually, I need to just get off my butt and do this, is get a form where the riders can come up to the dang site and say, hey, like, put in your info and we'll hook you up with a subscription so you can see all the stats, all your stats, right? Like, and just get us your height and weight, get us your date, get us the hometown you want people to know is your hometown. And don't lie about it and say it's the cool place that you want to be from, please. I love, like, yeah.
From the North Pole.
Yeah, dude, it's people get upset if you actually put where they were actually born.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, no, guys, we need like legit hometown, and then give me your current location. Anyhow, I need to get that stuff. Maybe I'll get off my butt here in the next month or so, and we'll get some of that information, because even the past pros can go in and fill something like that out, and then I can get that pipeline built in. Yeah,
yeah, because I think that's when you talk about like recruiting. Like, I really think that height is playing a much bigger role in the sport these days than what it did in the past, because I think of the way that technique has changed. And you're getting these guys that are taller that are applying a different leverage on the motorcycle now, because technique evolved, and then they evolved with the technique, and then all of a sudden this body shape that historically was using a different body positioning that was under leveraged is now in like a point of maximum leverage.
Yeah.
And I think that's my like gut feeling on, you look at like a Jett versus a Hunter. And I mean, they're very close. The riding style's the same. Their bike setups very the length of their levers are different.
Yeah, Jett's got to have a couple of inches on them, right? And
got-
who knows what inseam length is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like you've got these points of leverage on the motorcycle, because essentially all you're doing, speed on a motorcycle equals body positioning and bike positioning over time.
Yeah.
Like that's literally.
This is a place where you just brought me down a whole new path of data where I want like inseam and arm length and like, but that's the stuff. That's the bio data. That's like to the piece before of like, give me that type of data, and you're going to learn.
Because the NFL, you're getting picked.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying I would like motocross and supercross to go down that.
Yeah.
But I think just purely as a fan or purely as like an interest, to know, like, it's like, hey, if my kid's going to be 5'11", like to 6 foot, like, dude, you're in the Goldilocks zone. Or if you're like a Benny Bloss, like there's probably a point of diminishing returns where now you're over leveraged. Yeah. And Alex Martin is probably under leveraged for Supercross.
Cooper Webb would like you to hold his beer.
Yeah. And but he he probably is under leveraged.
Yeah.
You know, like So I think it's a very interesting thing, like if there was data, and it's all speculation. Yeah. It's just me speculating currently. Yeah. But I mean,
but like RC used to always have his subframes cut down, right? Like that was a height thing. Like he was having to optimize the bike in a different way that a Kevin Windham or a Chad Reed wouldn't have had to do. So
and I think
totally reasonable.
Back then the technique was different to where those forces, the leverage forces, didn't come into play as much for the taller guys. So you would almost think, it's better to be shorter. Because that was the narrative when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was like lanky and long, and you'd see me ride, and everyone's like, you're too tall for moto. And I was like, I'm fucking 6 foot. Like, I'm not that tall. Yeah. But that was the narrative when I was young. Yeah. Is that you need to be short and stocky, and because that's just what did good at the
Wardy,
time.
Man.
Yeah, Wardy, Jeff Lease, Ricky Carmichael.
Oh, Lease, wow. Yeah,
the Flying Freckle.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that they were just these shorter kind of dudes. Stewie.
Yep. Yeah, Stu, RC. I mean, even MC's not a particularly tall guy, right? Like maybe 5'10".
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like the difference between 250, 450. Like you look at the shorter guys that have won championships on a 250.
Oh, that's interesting. Alrighty, guys. Every rider that's listening, just drop me your height and weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into the database, and I'll answer this question for you.
So, what other stuff's interesting to you at the moment? Is there any other storylines that you're super into? Is there any changes you personally would love to see with the sport? Or
yeah, the interesting piece to me, like for me right now, there's a big focus on lap time stuff. Yeah, I've been spending 2 areas: lap times and then team history. like in two very different reasons, right?
Yeah.
The lap time stuff is really for rider recruitment, rider performance, and just understanding who's got strengths and weaknesses in different portions and just recreating the race in data, right? Like knowing the gate position versus like I want to get to the point of gate position to what position they were in entering the first turn to what position they were entering exiting the first turn to,
because that speaks to like who's got great reactions, who's got the ability to find a hole, who's got the ability to, like, there's a lot there.
Dude, there's the first 2 laps of every race. I think you see it in any of the lap charts. There's just a lot of movement. And once the race gets separated out, for you to come back is going to be harder and harder as the sport progresses. And so I just think the importance of the beginning of the races, the importance of the start, you see it. The average white line position has dropped from 2.8 3 years ago to this year's 2.4. That's half a position. So if you want to win, it's a half a position better at the white line now. It just tells you it's more important. Now, the interesting part, it's even harder to get a good start now. So everybody's average has actually gone up because the field, everybody knows the start's important. So everybody's putting the same effort forth to be better at those starts. So it's just one of those things where once you learn one thing to progress, you can't just stay stagnant. You're going to have to continue to progress. So to me, lap times and positions on the track and that stuff is really interesting from a data and stats perspective. The team stuff is just me being a nerd of the sport. And like, I love looking at that stuff and comparing those things. And RC gives me a hard time. He's like, "You're such a fanboy sometimes." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. You're right. Yeah. You're right." Dude, do you know how many wins you have? Like, do you know how many losses you have? Let's talk about that. Like, I just think that's, it's respect for every one of these guys, from every privateer out there to everybody that's won a race. Like, it's just incredible respect for what they've done in their careers. And so I love celebrating that stuff and seeing what it is and finding the stories. So the team research stuff is those two things are particularly interesting. And change for the sport, like, it's not even change, as I would love for people to recognize that, what does it mean to grow?
Yeah.
Like, people dismiss it. Like, I'll give Mathis a hard time. He's like, it's never going to grow, right? Like, I think he's
like, why would he say that?
Yeah. And it's like, Steve, this is the message. Stop being so negative. It's like, we can grow. Things can grow. It just requires change. Recognize, well, what does that mean to change? And it's not what you and I think it is. You and I were riffing and we're talking about like the format of the race. It's like, dude, that's not going to attract another fan.
That's not going to,
that'll make it more interesting for us to watch. And it's like our pontifications of what may be interesting for the sport. But if you really want to grow the sport, you got to recognize, well, what does it mean to grow? And like, just go look at 10 equivalents. Like your F1 example, the F1 example is like the popular one these days. And so everybody looks at Drive to Survive and says, oh, that's the key. Like, sure, that helps. But like, go look at corporate America is just packed with businesses. Like, take a look at Apple. What happened to Apple in 2007? They came out with an iPhone. The iPhone like took over the world in many ways around mobile computing, right? And what your phone is. Like, think about what that was. That was a completely about-face change of what the hell to think about a phone.
Yeah.
Like, think about how drastic it is for a company that was stagnant, right? Like, Apple was nothing for many years.
It was so niche.
It was like it had gone off to be the designer's computer.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it came back. And it was largely because of the introduction of the iPhone. And they did something that was completely changed the paradigm and like really thought outside of the box. You can go through corporate America and you're going to find 100 examples of products that were by the wayside and didn't have any growth. And then all of a sudden they're growing, right? Like Stanley, everybody knows him now for
the fucking cup.
Right? Like, maybe it's a bad example because that's likely to be a fad, right? But like,
yeah, but I think
but
it's a
recognize,
good example. Yeah.
Right? Like PBR. What happened to PBR? Why did all of a sudden 10 years ago, or I don't know, maybe it's 15 years ago, PBR became the thing again? Like, it had fallen by the wayside. You got to go look at these other contemporary examples of growth and where those things came from and recognize what did that change come from? How did they make that change? And to me, I'm a customer first guy. It's like, go look at the customer. What does the customer want? Right? I joke with Brett, like, well, we're making hats and shirts, and he's like, what do you think of this blue? Or what do you think of this gray? And I go, black.
Yeah.
Because
That's the right answer.
go walk around a stadium with a notepad, and every time you see a hat not colored black, make a notch. You're going to walk around all day and not see anything but black hats, right? Like, it's just the reality of the consumer today. That's what they're going to accept. And so that's our current customer. So now go figure out what you think the future customer is. There's data that I have no doubt that Feld has, that the manufacturers have, that would tell you, that would give you a seed for what the next consumer is that would be open to it. But that's a piece I would just, I think like just having some introspection around like, hey, if we wanted to really grow this, what does it require? And then I think the other piece of that is there's so many entities in this, right? The leadership entities, take Feld, MX Sports, AMA, the manufacturers, and there's now 10 of them.
The team managers.
Yeah, like you think about they all have to get in line.
And it is pretty miraculous that all of those interests do align.
Yeah, I mean they should. They haven't always.
No, for sure. But I mean, even in the times they didn't align, like it still kind of worked.
Yeah.
You know, like it's quite miraculous.
Yeah, by handshakes, right? Or at least it seemed like handshakes. I'm by no means in that inner circle.
Counting that all these dudes are going to drive their semis in this pit. So, and bring all the you know, it's like $100 million worth of shit that just gets bought into a stadium every single weekend.
Yeah, it's incredible to think like the production that Feld puts on or that MX Sports puts on, and that the manufacturers are going to show up and the privateers are going to show up and make it happen. So yeah, no specific dreams or wishes around the change, but just more like inspect. Like I don't know, and maybe I'm irrational about it, but I do think it could grow. It's just you got to recognize
100%.
what it takes to grow. Yeah.
Well, man, we just did 3 hours, and I
Sweet.
thoroughly appreciate what you do for the sport, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah,
and,
same.
So wewentfast.com.
Yep.
Tell people more.
Yeah, get to the site, check out some history, some great stories. Sign up for membership if you want to go on the month-to-month. We're going to start doing a month-to-month membership piece in May, the beginning of the pro motocross season. That's going to fund getting all of the stats that I'll show you guys after this, after we turn this off. Get that stuff up on the site and make it available to everybody, right? Yep. Like I gotta somehow fund getting the capability to do it. But yeah, we're doing our best to put up some really cool stories, look at the stats, like analyze stuff, put better stories up there to make the sport a little bit better.
Awesome. Anything we missed, you reckon?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
I think it was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. This is super cool.
Let's definitely not make this the last time that this happens. Where did you fly from today to do this?
I came from Seattle. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, fly down.
And your wife was cool with it?
Yeah, she was like, alrighty. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. She's even picking up the little. I got pickup duty.
You got the full.
Yeah, I got the pass
today.
Yeah, and I think I've got to get the pass next weekend too because I got to go to Denver early. So, my Red Bull duties. They're the distribution center headquarters is there. So, anyhow, it's great to come down though, dude. It was long overdue.
Oh yeah, we've been trying to do this for ages.
I know.
And we were supposed to do this last Wednesday, and I was in the flood of all floods. We're like messaging each other at the airport. That was wild to get back.
Just
here,
a bit of water, bud.
Did I send you the videos and stuff?
You did. You did. It was nuts. That was just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Full blown Mad Max, dude.
And you're just sitting at the airport like the worst.
Well, we spent 30 hours at the airport.
That's
so we went
the worst place on the planet.
Friday morning. Basically the rain started. Monday morning. We were supposed to fly here Tuesday, get here Wednesday, and then Monday I had like all this like just business stuff to do, and I like had to sign papers, and I just had to do all this shit. Started pissing down rain. We had this tiny rental car, and I was like, the water was up the doors on the rental car, like water was starting to come in, and I'm just sitting there going like, I'm just about to take my passport and my laptop and walk to the bank right now, you know. And so anyway, that lived through that day, and it's just the craziest lightning storm I've ever seen in my life. We're like 14 stories up in our apartment, and we're like in the middle of a lightning storm, and then pisses down all day, all night. Tuesday, flight says it's still going. And I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to the airport. So we leave at 5 a.m., get to the 4:30, get to the airport by like 8. Took that long. It was like 15 miles to get there. just could not. We were getting onto an exit, and then it was just completely flooded. So then we had to reverse, go backwards on the highway for 3 hours to get to the airport. Then we got stuck in the airport for 30 hours.
And what's the travel? 30 hours?
16 hours here.
Yeah.
Then I was in customs for 4 hours. So we left Tuesday morning.
It's 2 days later.
Door to door, Friday morning, 1 a.m. we got to California.
It is the worst. Travel is just bad to begin, right?
That was brutal.
That is the worst of the worst right there.
So, but we made it. We made
Yep,
it back.
made it happen.
First cab off the ranks. It's been a while. I haven't done a podcast in over a month.
There you go.
So this was great. I
Very
thoroughly
cool.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, we'll have to figure out maybe at the maybe before the playoffs or before Anaheim 1 next year, we can break down. We can break down. You can dive into some stats. I'll show you some stuff. We can ask. We can ask what the audience wants to hear.
Yeah, let's make this a regular thing because that was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
learned so much, and I appreciate the work that you do for the sport.
Thanks, man.
Done.
We are excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125 Gypsy Gang.